What is up, guys? Welcome to the transparency. I want to start with a video. This is a classic. It's a video that I made, and I want to start with it. But I want to say good morning to everybody. And we are in for a laugh, but we're also in for a ding, ding, ding. Told you so. So we're here for a lot of reasons. But yesterday, this is just gonna be a quick hearing. It was anything but quick. It was powerful. People can say whatever they want. People can still live with glasses on. I have no idea what's on them. They can see things however the hell they want. But what I witnessed yesterday is 17 months worth of, I told you this case is not what it seems. So here we go. But I want to start off with a classic that I made.
Honestly don't know if that killer cut himself and has, mixed DNA in that blood, but you can't do that much activity and not shed a skin cell or a hair or a fiber off your sweater or your jacket or your hat. It's next to impossible. It's just how many other people have walked through that house through the ages, honestly.
Example, the situation with the mispronunciation of Haley's name and of Xana's name. And I was thinking, how could that happen? Well, I believe perhaps this judge is probably like an FBI agent. We don't watch media about our cases. I would guess this judge hasn't watched a lot of media. Has he read about it? Perhaps. So maybe he hasn't heard over and over these names. I am not trying to give an excuse. I'm trying to provide a possible explanation. I think on the cameras, the reason he did that. This will be studied ad nauseum in every profiling and college and everything else, because he'll be the first one we know of that used social media as opposed to what BTK did, writing into various media outsourced. I mean, to me, that's why I'm a little bit sidetracked with it, down my rabbit hole. Is, do I think Bryan Kohberger used Papa Roger to communicate with social media about his crimes? My needle is way to the right that yes, it's him, but I'm still at a stopgap because of three main things. The others I've been able to dispel now, but one is the fact that on the profile it says her. Mm-hmm. But I'm not convinced that that wasn't done purposefully for multiple reasons. Number two, he has a very odd post that he sends to the it's an Indiana school board about budgeting. But I'm very close, I shouldn't spend time on this, to popping a connection there. And we're close. Breaking news and Papagate. But we'll see if for sure. And then the other one was a tweet regarding an individual in California regarding politics, specifically kind of sticking up for the military. That one doesn't strike me near as oddly. It's the budget one. But anyway, the fact.
Wow. You guys remember when I played that? Just wow. Just wow. You guys wonder why the media, or why the expert Brian Edelman went ahead and asked the questions that he did. Well, I can't believe that he didn't ask this one. Do you believe that Bryan Kohberger is Papa Rogers on social media? This is why there was a survey. These people are complete ass clowns. They are the problem. You could be a couple things in life. You could be the problem, you could be the solution, or you can just be boring and you're neither. But I think this would have been a legitimate question to be on the survey. Who else feels like, that could be a legitimate question on the survey? Do you believe that Bryan Kohberger, did you hear that Bryan Kohberger was Papa Rogers? Did you see, but Welcome to the transparency. We're going to talk about it. Ann Taylor. She just, when Bill Thompson we were wondering, like, he's got his panties so twisted over this PowerPoint presentation. So it's like, no, we don't need to see this. We don't need this PowerPoint presentation. It's just like, they're stock. We're all like, dude, what's the problem? These are stock images. The same thing that you gave us when you guys wanted us to find this white Elantra, right? Well, right after we start talking about this is going to be, these are stock images. Like, how are you going nuts? He was going nuts for what was coming right after that, which was, holy shit. You don't want this to be shown because you are in the PowerPoint presentation. Okay. And I thought it was perfect, Bill Thompson, all the stuff that you said pre-trial, before there was even arrest of Bryan Kohberger, you were doing, interviews, and you guys are saying, you're saying something different than the police are saying. You guys are so all over the place. But now we know why Santa was just like in an uproar, because Ann Taylor used who better than the damn prosecutor. It's kind of like in the Delphi case. Who is your source? Okay, who is your source? Well, my source is Nick McLeland, the prosecutor. But Santa, he didn't have a problem with the stock images. He had a problem with the next slide. And then Ann Taylor says, well, if you want to control the slide, and when the slide goes to the next slide, if you want to control the PowerPoint, you can control it. Do you want to press the next button? You can control it. I mean, Bill Thompson was unhinged yesterday. And anybody that thinks anything else, you did not watch it. And you are thinking to yourself, oh, I just read the clip off, mainstream media when they said that the prosecution rips the defendant. What? There was no ripping. In my opinion, Bill Thompson came to, he brought a knife to a gunfight. That's how bad it was. So Bill Thompson did not bring an expert to call to the stand to combat. I mean, maybe he will when it's the actual hearing. That has now been pushed back all the way. It was going to be May 4th. Okay. Now it's going to be June 27th. June 27th. Okay. So you want to talk about the family? You want to talk about family members being pissed? You're supposed to have this hearing May 4th, which there is still going to be a hearing because they're doing a compel discovery hearing. Because again, they're not getting the discovery to imagine that to Ann Taylor. Between January and March, they got discovery in January of this past year, and they got another dump in March here at the end of the month, at the end of last month. But there's still stuff that's missing in between that. But yeah, so the family, you can only go and thank Bill Thompson, making it a huge deal. Why would Bill Thompson make this a huge deal? This survey a huge deal? You making this survey, which is completely legal, which is completely inside, and not that it's just even legal, it is par for the course on something of this magnitude of a capital case. And you have such a closed area here, and they are biased. They are biased, and that's what's coming across. And when you see the stat numbers, like, figures don't lie, but liars always figure. So my dad's, taught me, and those figures don't lie, but liars always figure. So, I thought that guy did an extraordinarily amazing job, and he had a right. And he's like, I'm not, my feelings aren't hurt. He's like, you're coming after my profession. You're coming after me as a professional. And that's exactly what Bill Thompson did prior to ever being, for that guy, Brian Edelman, ever being heard. You're attacking what he does in his, career, but on a level of like, dude, I'm a doctor in this field, sit and spin. And Bill Thompson should be sitting and spinning all morning. And somebody should make him sit. They're going to have to sit him down and say, you cannot do this in trial. We will lose. Okay. If Bill Thompson thinks that he is going to attack witnesses and badger witnesses the way that he did that expert, the jury is going to be like so turned off. Ann Taylor was the other side of the pillow yesterday. You know, the cool side of the pillow. Giving a shout out to my boy, rest in peace, Stewart, ESPN. But Bill Thompson came across as the flip side to that, which is the sweaty hooker side of the pillow. You know, that rough, nasty that you had, and you probably throw away those type of sheets. But Ann Taylor has always come across cool, calm, collective, very respectful, very in control. And that's something that Jennifer Coffindaffer said when she's like, Ann Taylor's large and in charge. What does that even mean? Okay. What the heck does that even mean, to be honest? JC can't even give credit where credit's due without making Ann Taylor's large and in charge. Okay. That's just pathetic. You know, really, that's just a weird way to put it. She's definitely in charge. I don't know what large and in charge. What does that even mean? But she definitely took command of that courtroom, and she did it in a very, you know, the jury is going to like Ann Taylor. I'm telling you that right now. The jury is going to like Ann Taylor, which is a huge part of it. But guys, she said it for the first time yesterday. Their whole team did. You guys, they believe not in just the rights of their client. It's one thing to say Bryan Kohberger has rights. Okay, everybody has rights, right? Ann Taylor, when Bill Thompson's saying, well, yeah, I think that these slides prejudice your client. Why? I'm over here looking out for your client. Excuse me? Nobody is looking out for Bryan Kohberger's best interest more than myself, who believes firmly believes, she said, in his innocence. We believe in his innocence. So there is nobody out here that is advocating more for Bryan Kohberger than myself and our team. She didn't say, I am doing this for Bryan Kohberger's rights. I'm doing my job. Okay. And then that was backed up by the federal, their teammate there. And that's the part I'm actually going to start with today is when, what's her name, came on to talk. Oh, what the hell? Massive. And she said the same thing. We're not just fighting for Bryan Kohberger's rights, which are our rights. This man, we believe, based on the evidence, and she tore up the PCA and says that there are so many mistruths in the PCA, which we've been saying that here since jump. I've followed this case, and I've basically run as much of an investigation as you can with limited resources. Okay. If they are to lift this gag and dump the discovery like they did in the Shanna Gardner case, and I get my hands on that discovery, I will destroy that discovery. You mark my words, I will destroy it live here on this channel for you every single day. I will break that motherfucker down, and I will show you exactly where Idaho State Police fucked up. They fuck up on purpose. They are fuck ups, period. Take it to the bank. I have proof that they did it in a 2020 case. I can prove that they buried evidence. I can prove that they were looking dead into, they found a huge inconsistency in a eyewitness's story and they buried it. Okay. They did the same thing in this case, and I will prove it. Give me that discovery and I will prove it. And that's exactly what Ann Taylor's been saying. How do you get to my client? There's only one way, and that's off a planted sheath. Whether it was the law enforcement people or whether it was somebody else, they're telling you guys that fucking sheath was planted. They wrote it in the material. A placed sheath. You want Bryan Kohberger to take the word of FBI, but you don't know how to show your work of a placed sheath. They use the word placed sheath. That's the only thing that is tying Bryan Kohberger to this case. The only thing. So you should, as every American and non-American, you should be asking yourself, how is that possible? And that's why I started with this clip today. Everybody out there saying this, Bryan Kohberger or the killer.
Honestly don't know if that killer cut himself and has, you know, mixed DNA in that blood, but you can't do that much activity and not shed a skin cell or a hair or a fiber off your sweater or your jacket or your hat. It's next to impossible. It's just how many other people have walked through that house through the, you know, through the
Now we have 3 unknown male DNAs. 3. Motive is going to be very, very interesting to me in this case. Is who had motive? Well, we have 4 different victims. We have 4 different storylines. 4 different victims. 4 different lives of what was going on. If Christy and Steve believe that this was intended for one person and then 3 other people died as a consequence because of being at the wrong place at the wrong time, then that would hold true for anybody, not just Bryan Kohberger. So I just need you guys to think about that. Take what Christy Gonzalez said and that they believe that this was intended for one person, but that 3 other people died in, you know, as a result, as part of it, due to basically being at the wrong place at the wrong time. That to me is so, so important. Now, the first time ever we're hearing the PCA is so flawed, but from them. Because you know what Dan Taylor says? If we say something, if the police say something, it's way more credible than someone like Ashley Banfield. Someone like me even, okay? Even though I'm sorry, but I think I'm damn motherfucking credible. Damn. Because you know what I do? I go get the receipts and I bring them out here. I've never said anything on my channel that I can't back up and produce with paper trail. You want to know why? Because why the fuck would I? Why would I go lie to you guys when I'm smart enough to go tell you the truth and show you where it comes from? Lazy people lie. Lazy motherfucking people lie. You just remember that too. No reason to lie to you guys. I want you guys all to come on every trip that I take in the cases that we do, because it's a we thing. You know how many people email me? Do you know how many people email me? I always put my email in here. Always putting my email in here. You know why? Because you guys are smart. I want smart people emailing me. I want smart people emailing me. The people that follow my channel are smart. They have lives. They have families. They have balance. And Mary P says, WAP, baby. She's got some WAP too. Don't let her lie to you, man. She's the best kindergarten teacher out there. I love it. She could teach my kid any day. But yesterday, again, I thought this was going to be a quick, like a more like, we got to have this hearing and it's going to go nowhere. Right when I saw that there was a podium and there was a laptop on that podium, I said, oh, hell, this going down. Do you know that Edelman, the first time around, he was there on Zoom. Do you know that Edelman said, no, I'm bringing my ass to fucking Idaho? Brought himself there. I am testifying. You know why? Because this prosecutor, Bill Thompson, okay, has completely tried to shred me. And I haven't even spoken a word. I think that the guy should sue Bill Thompson. Everybody say, oh, Lana, that's because you're so sue happy. No, I think that you should sue people where that is proper. You know what? I don't need to go comment and disparage you on social media. No, I'm just going to take this to the courts. Okay. I got a lot of people the fuck out of my way, didn't I? Bye. Where am I? Still up here. Get the fuck out. So, but Bill Thompson went and then the media ran with it. That's been the problem. And that was in the slide yesterday. And I'm like, boom. Like, you know, that guy put that in the slide. This guy did not want to testify via Zoom. He wanted to be there. He wanted to say, this is how we do things. This isn't just for Bryan Kohberger. This is for the industry. The industry. when you have JLR, because you know me and him think totally different on this case, right? Well, I bet you $1 million that I'm going to get JLR feeling some type of way about this case by the time it's over with, because I'm going to remind him about what it means to be innocent until proven guilty, as everybody should be reminded of that. But after last week, the media ran with the fact of the defense has tampered with the jury in all these headlines, when that couldn't be further from the truth. But it's all these media companies that need a click, need a view. They have an agenda, and it's called money. They're in business money. It's unfortunate, though, that they're not smart enough to know how to make money and be truthful and be fair. You can't be fair and make money. Think about you going to like Dick's. I told Dick's the other day, I am done shopping here because you guys are the most overpriced place I've ever went into in my life. I said, you want to charge me $20 for a damn Gatorade sports water bottle? Have you lost your mind? I said, and then you want to sell me a sports bra and shorts for $80? A guy was just like on one. But I'm like, I guess you guys have to make up all that money, and because you're just spending a shit ton in marketing and advertising or some shit. But there's my rant on, let me know if you guys need sports bras and shorts. I'm going to tell you where to go. Because I got some sweet ass titties here. They got to keep, percolating. Okay. And, but anyways, that's for another day. That's for another channel I should make. But you guys do know that Dick's is way overpriced. And I feel like that's like life. Every dick is overpriced, because when you can get it for free, you better not be paying for no dick. Okay. See, it's a great balance here at this channel. Truth, transparency, and titties. But yeah, I do have big knockers. And my dad didn't buy them. So, but back to what we're talking about. The media in 1 week tried to literally shred this man and his company, company that he built. So right here, and I recommend if you guys go read it. It's the Declaration of Bryan Edelman, and he has a PhD. Okay, but he did a most amazing job describing to all of us how this process works. He broke it down to us. If we were like, I felt like I was sitting yesterday in a night class in college with 700 other of you guys that were in the same lecture class as I was. And we were, listening to our professor talk to us about things. And then, hey guys, we're going to have a test on this, we're chapter whatever, and we're learning this. But what I thought was interesting, because it's so true. If I just ask you, if I ask my kid, hey, how was your day today? What did you do at school? What do we get? Oh, it's the same day, Mom. But we ask our kid, did you guys go outside for recess? No or yes. Did you play inside because it was raining? Did you have art today? What did you draw in art? Like, to be specific, right? We get nothing when we just ask our kid, how was school today? What'd you do? What'd you do in school today? We get nothing, right? That's why I like a little bit of this technology that we get. I don't know where you guys send your kids to school, but we get, we're able to like message app and crap with our teachers, and we get to, know what our kid's working on. So then therefore I can ask a question like, hey, I saw your spelling I saw your spelling words. How do you spell da-da-da? And they could be like, that's not one of our words, or he rips it off and gets it right, or rips it off and gets it wrong. And I'm like, what have you been doing? And anyway, then he brings up a great analogy about movies. Like, I love analogies. I love it. Okay. Tell me about the movie of Star Wars. That's what he says. And then this is what you get. Okay. But when you ask, hey, did you know that Darth Vader was Luke's dad? You know what I mean? Yes or no. So, and when you think about things like that, it's like, yes, you ask me a question that is close-ended, meaning it's just yes or a no. There's no explanation that comes after it. Okay. And when they called up the people, if they said that they didn't know anything about the case or they didn't hear about it, bye, done, over. There's no more dealing with that person unless it was demographic type questions. Okay. So he's like, and Anne started this and she says, wait a second, how are any of us even having any conversations? We need to talk to this dude, our expert. He's going to explain what he did, because how do you have a opinion that you're going to rule on anything if we can continue this way, or if we can't, if you don't know what you're supposed to rule on? Like, what? Who? Hey, Lana, who won the Iowa South Carolina basketball game? Well, they didn't play yet. What do you mean they didn't play yet? You still have to tell me who won. What? They have to play, and then I can tell you who won. I can tell you all about the game, right? Lana, you watched the Iowa UConn game. Did you? Yep. Was there a huge controversial call at the end of the game? Yes. What happened? There was a moving screen called, an illegal screen called, when UConn had the ball under 5 seconds to take a last second shot with Paige coming off a screen. Who would have been wide open to shoot, to have a chance to go and take the lead? What ended up happening? Well, that screen then was called. Iowa gets the ball. Iowa wins the game. I wouldn't know any of that unless I watched the game. So here we go. We need to watch Brian Edelman's presentation to then have a damn say, meaning like the judge can then say, okay, well, I don't believe anything, X, Y, Z. The judge is hung up on the questions. And Ann Taylor will do it in her brief and in her summary. She will nail this part of it, which is, listen, you need to get it through your thick skulls. These questions came from the media. I did not speak with Ann Taylor. Ann Taylor did not give me these questions. I got these questions from X, Y, and Z. And then he did a great job of explaining how he knew that there was a non-dissemination order, because it's all over everywhere. It's all in every article that he read. He read 269 articles from Moscow area. These questions came from, did you hear, see, or read? And then what's your question? He says where he got this from. I don't understand when they want to say that this man is injecting information into people that may have not known that. He's then asked about the stalking. You knew that wasn't true. And if I was him, how would I know that that's not true? This is the only thing that I would have answered differently, is this part. What do you mean, do I know that it's not true? Did I know it was not true? I had to know it at some point, but there's no way off the rip that I know that. Unless I was privy to the discovery, or are you going off of the probable cause? Like, where's that coming from to say, like, you knew that Bryan Kohberger wasn't stalking anybody, so why did you put that in your questionnaire? I'm not telling the people that it's true. I'm asking them if they've heard, seen, or read, and then I say the question. I don't say then, but you know that that's not true. He says that. I'm asking them that question. I'm not saying if it's true or not. So my question for everybody here, and it's for Judge to say, thank you, Nancy. Love you, baby girl. You the best. And I'm gonna go and actually play that part of it. So hold on one second. I gotta go to my page. Let's see. Your channel. Go to your channel, Lana, and you share your shit, girl. Okay, ma. Okay. Here it is. Okay. So
Why? Because this case has received a lot. Or your reputation was impugned. I believe it was, yes. If you're allowed, if the court says, okay, go ahead. Representation.
okay.
To develop a credible reputation, and being told, watching on a Zoom, that I am tainting the jury pool and poisoning the jury pool and contaminating the jury pool by doing what's required and standard. I'm not crying. I'm angry. Okay. Yeah.
Right there. I'm not crying. I'm angry. I'm angry. So that's my face last night. Okay. Because Bill Thompson wanted to get all in this man's fifis. And he's like, I'm not crying. There's no crying in law. There's no crying in lawyering. There's no crying in trial innovations. There's no crying in baseball. This.
To develop a credible reputation, and being told, watching on a Zoom, that I am tainting the jury pool and poisoning the jury pool and contaminating the jury pool by doing what's required and standard. I'm not crying. I'm angry.
What I am doing is standard in what I do for a living. Okay.
Yes, it doesn't.
And please go ahead and be as angry as you like as you continue.
Okay, so right there, okay, you have to ask him a question. So if Ann Taylor wanted to, she could say objection. Bill Thompson is not here to testify. So she can object to, you have to ask this man a question, but you're not going to have conversation with this man. There's a difference. Okay.
From your work for the defense in this case. It is a fact, though, that you don't.
Where's this question at? Think about how you're supposed to question people. It is a fact, though.
Oh, of the 400 citizens that were questioned on this survey, you don't know which ones of them did not already previously know any of the fact-specific representations in your questions. Isn't that true?
I do know, because they answered yes or no to the question.
No. Oh, well, okay. Before you asked the question, you didn't know that. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And so somebody who hadn't heard the representation in that one slide that you acknowledged was false. Let's see. You acknowledged false that Mr. Kohberger allegedly stalked one of the victims. That's false. You know that to be false.
Which one?
That Mr. Kohberger allegedly stalked one of the victims.
Yes.
He's saying allegedly stalked one of the victims. He's saying, you know that to be false. I want to know, my question is, how does this man know that that's false, though? When did he know that it was false? Because, wait a second. The dad of Kaylee Gonzalez's dad is telling us that this Bryan Kohberger guy stalked them, followed them on Facebook or one of their social media, Instagram. So how would he know that? So this is what I was just talking about, and I want to hear how this plays out.
I was trying not to say that because.
But you knew that was false.
I did.
Yes. And so you have now, for anybody who had never heard that before, that question is now planted into them, unqualified representation that Mr. Kohberger stalked one of the witnesses, and that's false.
That's false. Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you,
Okay. Fine.
He didn't implant anything. When you ask somebody a question, how am I implanting anything in you? I'm look at me. I'm so excited because that was really, really, Bill Thompson messed up there. Again, when you have redirect, so this is cross-examination, you then get to be rehabilitated. That's redirect gives you a chance to rehabilitate your person that you're questioning. So when you want to think of what redirect is all about, if something is misleading during that cross-examination, Ann Taylor's going to go and she's going to redirect, which is a way to rehabilitate the person that's being questioned this to better explain what this man wants to run with. Okay. So Bill Thompson is saying that that's false, but that this guy knew it was false. I just want to know, I want to know how this man knew that this would be false, though. You know, and I think that that's something that should be answered. I told you, Mr. Gonzalez, to stop saying that.
On that, early on in your testimony, you testified, I want to make sure that we heard this correctly, that inadmissible or false information can be the most prejudicial
information.
It can be.
Yes. And your surveyors put that false information into the minds of people who were asked that question who may not have previously heard it. Correct.
Correct. Relative
Thank
to
you.
the media,
Thank you.
it's mentioned it hundreds and thousands of times.
Isn't this supposed to find out, Bill? Bill, this is where you're going. This is where there's no jury here. Okay, there's no jury here, so it's judge that is going to decide. And so what Bill Thompson is doing here is he thinks that he has a jury that's going to decide whether or not this survey is conducted or not. No, judge is going to make that. So you can't be he's trying to pull. This is how he would cross-examine this guy if there was a jury here, but there is no jury here, you idiot. Okay, so you can't be trying to do your little lawyer fucking let's try to confuse, okay, the jury. Bill Thompson was practicing though, okay, and he came across, and he was, not only did he come across, but he was 100% argumentative and badgering this doctor, okay, PhD, just a pioneer in his field. Said no, we didn't plant in their mind. We asked them about it.
Around the same time of your testimony, I believe you testified that you don't care if the information that you put in your specific questions to the people being surveyed is correct. That you said that, didn't you?
Right. I don't know what you mean by correct.
True or false?
I care about whether or not it's proliferated by the media.
You don't care if it's true.
No, I don't. I
No.
don't care about is it prejudicial.
So it's okay to taint people.
I care if it's prejudicial. Asking people questions is not tainting. But do you guys see what he's doing? No jury, but he's still manipulating. You cannot manipulate a judge, guys. That's why Judge is going to, read the transcript of this, do whatever. But I'm telling you, what Bill Thompson is doing here is for a jury, okay? Is for a jury. That's how you would be handling this. He is failing on any argument he's supposed to be asking this guy questions about procedure, okay? To get information out so that he can prep then for the actual hearing, and he blew his opportunity, okay? You would want to try to get as much things answered, not argumentatively, but get this man on the record saying things to then down the road at this hearing could potentially use to possibly impeach him, could be used in a way to discredit him, okay? But Bill Thompson in my opinion, is not good at his job. That's why all you see is plea deals coming out of Moscow, Idaho, out of Latah County. Okay. There is no jury that is going to decide and ask themselves if this man is credible or not. And instead, Bill Thompson, he catches himself and he says, yeah, you're right. There is no jury here. Okay.
People who had never heard that information before, for the end result of identifying others who had and might have bias. Is that?
If nobody had heard that before, the answer to that question then is called no. Okay. So have you heard, seen, or read this? And they say no. Bill, that's helping your cause, right? There's no follow-up to it. There's no, hey, if they answered yes, then we ask them where they saw it. If they answer no, then we just move on. Or if whatever they say, then we just let them know, hey, well, you know that that's not true though, right? So Bill, we're talking about a process here. If it's coming back that stuff that was put out in the media that's not true, and people in Latah County are saying that they didn't even get to see, hear, or read that, that's looking promising for it being a not biased area. That they, thank God they weren't subjected to that. Okay. Or did you read, see, or hear? Because then they ask this questions, which is the whole is Bryan Kohberger innocent or guilty? And that's what you had to watch in the direct examination to see, wow, the people that heard these questions and what they thought, because they're asking, you go to these local outlets to get your information because you believe that they are credible. Otherwise, you would not read them. Okay. So when you would hear, see, or read this, okay, you're thinking that it's true, right? And it was the correlation of the percentage of people that thought Bryan Kohberger was guilty that thought, or I'm sorry, not that thought, but saw those comments, saw that being written, saw the false shit. Okay. You have to ask the false stuff that's in the media, because that's what's going to tell you if that area has been prejudiced with false shit that's being led to be fact. Like, Bill Thompson, how do you not get it? Or are you just trying to do your job in terms of, I want to keep it in Latah County? You're not going to get around, and this is what it'll tell you. This is why he said it in his direct examination. Guys, if we don't ask these close-ended questions, you're going to only get stuff like this, which then makes an area look like it is not biased. But when we ask specific questions to get the yes or the no, then you mix those with that person's opinion if Bryan Kohberger is innocent or guilty. And the people that were saying he is guilty, it was 87% of those people thought that Bryan Kohberger stalked and followed the victims on social media. Stalked them, which is alluded to when you want to say in the PCA that he visited the home, and in the area of the home, rather, 12 times before the murder. What do you think that that's insinuating? Versus just saying that he's been to Moscow, Idaho 12 times, and he was on a cell tower that provides service to Moscow. But that's not how they said it. They say that it's consistent with the same cell tower of the 1122 King Road home. That's how it's said in the PCA. Okay. And then what did the media run with then? Every single media outlet ran with this. And this is where I said, you guys have lost your fucking minds to sit here and say, I went to the University of Cincinnati. Do you know what college campus is right next to that campus? Xavier. We are rivals. Okay. We are literally 1 mile apart, 1 exit apart. We're right there. Xavier kids go down to Cincinnati, and Cincinnati kids go and party on Xavier's campus all the time, right? Who wouldn't, right? They make it seem in the PCA that it's so common that kids go from Moscow to Pullman on page 17, page 16. But then in page 7 and 8, they say that, oh my God, Bryan Kohberger was on the cell tower that provides and is consistent with providing service to 1122 King. And then what did the media go and do? And what did the Gonzalez family do? They came out and told the world that Bryan Kohberger was stalking these kids and following them around on 12 occasions. Whether it was the house, whether it be a specific person, whether it be multiple people. And I came out and told the world, that has to be the stupidest shit I've ever heard. And I'm going to give you the number one reason why. It is 2022 when this happened. Why would Bryan Kohberger stalk in a way that it's 1984? Think about it. People stalk people on social media. People stalk people and follow them on social media because people share people's locations on social media and they tell you exactly where they're going to fucking be. And they don't even have to do it through the person that is the actual target versus people that are friends with them and them knowing, and then them looking at their social medias because then they're the ones that are taking the pictures and uploading them. And then you can see who's with who and where they're at. Okay. And so I came out screaming about that. I'm like, this is just fucking wild. I go to an area. There's a Walmart there. There's a TJ Maxx. There's places to shop that shit. He got pulled over there. Okay.
Is that a fair statement?
I'm going to object to the questions.
He can answer
He's
the question.
badgering.
He's badgering the witness.
Yeah, it's an objection.
He's badgering the witness. He's misstating his testimony, and I object.
The witness testified he didn't care if the information was correct, Judge.
Yeah.
Okay. Bill Thompson, does he not know how to answer when there's an objection? You have to answer that. So she's objecting to, and she's stating why. Okay. Now listen to how Judge answers this for the record. Does he say objection overruled, objection sustained? He doesn't say shit. He never says, listen to this.
Overruled. So.
Oh, sorry. On this one, he does?
No, that's okay.
Okay, wait. So it's overruled, but then listen. It's overruled, but then listen to what he says.
Person can talk at a time. And, let's take
So,
down
but he
the
gets
tone
to,
a little bit.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
But let's take it down a notch. So he wasn't badgering because he's overruling it, meaning that he's not badgering him, but he wants him to take it down. And hey guys, only one person talking at a time. Bill Thompson is going to get crushed in the courtroom when the jury sees him acting like this. This is what you guys are all, you see Bill Thompson and Taylor, cool, calm, cucumber. She is that other cool side of the pillow.
Just so we're clear, the
Bill's
questions,
trash.
fact-specific questions were pounded to people who were taking the survey. Did not, after asking the question even, qualify the false facts as saying this may or may not be true, or this is actually a false fact. The survey didn't tell them that what they might have heard was false.
First of all, I don't call them facts because they're media items. And then second of all, that would be ridiculous. And no, I wouldn't do that in a survey.
His answers are great. He's like, first of all, they're not facts. So you're misstating. He just so hard to watch. But I want to go to where, here we go. Right before the slide.
I would have been happy to engage in discussion with defense about maybe some middle ground, but and see what the options are. Well, my understanding from the email I received day before yesterday is the survey cannot be changed. That was from Ms. Taylor reporting what Dr. Elman said. I interpret that as I am concerned about the specific things that relate to venue, partial survey results that are in this PowerPoint. I believe it is premature for them to come out now. The rest of it is fine. Let's bring it out so that you have whatever information you want. You can give it the weight that you decide. I just didn't want to let this willy-nilly come into the public record.
Willy-nilly.
I have lots of concerns. We're not left with this because I have to make a decision about several things.
Yes, sir.
And so in order for me to have the most informed decision, I need the information. So they're just gonna go ahead. All right?
Thank you.
And you can show your slides, and if something is concerning, we can talk about it along with it. All right? So
Or maybe the bias isn't so great, where maybe Mr. Kohberger can have a fair trial. I'm his advocate. I want to help him. I believe in his innocence. I'm not going to stand in this courtroom and do anything wrong to him at all. I need you to hear the information so you can make a decision, to have the surveys, to have the information when we come.
There it was, guys. There it was. Right there, that's Ann Taylor saying, for the first time ever, and I'm going to rewind a little bit more because this was Bill Thompson saying, I cannot believe that you'd want to show these, to show this. It's right when Bill Thompson stands up from down.
I mean, I don't really want to spread it. None of us want to spread it more than necessary.
This is going to come out at the hearing.
Last week in court, that was right inside the courtroom. That all.
And by the way, guys, I'm trying to work with getting my mic to be on the same level. It's just so quiet, you know, so I'm trying to.
All became part of the public record. The 9 questions were stated repeatedly
Hi, Bill
in
Thompson.
different formats by Mr. Thompson. That's part of the public record. We've been accused of violating the non-dissemination order. Dr. Edelman's reputation has been impugned by what was stated about him repeatedly. Those questions are fair game. But having this hearing and allowing our expert to talk about this process, that's not the problem. The problem with the media happened a long time ago, and it started with the sharing of the affidavit far and wide.
I understand that. I'm pulled in 2 different directions right now because I'm trying to protect your client at the same time. So if we keep talking about
Oh my
this,
God. So the answer to this right here, guys, is right there. I'm trying to protect your client. You guys, right there, that's very interesting to me. That's very interesting to me that we all saw the spreadsheet. Okay, we all know the questions that were asked, but if he's trying to protect Bryan Kohberger, right? I'm trying to protect her from what? Protect Bryan from what? This is the process. Ann Taylor decided to do this survey, okay? And do it the way, when they say you have to do it the right way, she has nothing to do with it. The right way is the process. And that's from this guy. He's done it in all of these cases. This is how he does it. This let us find out why he asked these questions that I did not instruct him to ask. Why are they arguing and even discussing anything for 19, 20 minutes, however long it was, 25, 30 minutes? You don't know what you don't know what he's going to say. So therefore I don't understand what the fuck. Is there truly no common sense in Latah County? Because Ann Taylor's like, I'm on chapter 5 and you guys are on chapter 1. Did you guys not read the declaration that I filed for this man? Did you guys not see everything that was written in his declaration on how he handles it and how he does it and where this came? We were just here last time when you just found out that I didn't have anything to do with these questions. So why aren't we going straight to it? And why are you guys having all these preconceived notions without hearing from this expert? And then here we hear the judge say, I'm trying to protect your client. Again, from what? What is the judge trying to protect Ann's client from? And he seems to believe it is from inculpating, okay, information. That this stuff inculpates your client. And I said this the last time, and I just don't know how many times I can say it. How can false information inculpate anybody? How can inadmissible inculpate anybody? And the answer is it can't. It cannot. If it is false, then it doesn't, false things can't inculpate you. And do you guys know what that word means? And I know all of you guys do, but for the people that don't watch my show and then one day they get to watch this, if something is not true, it cannot inculpate you. It cannot be evidence. Inculpate means it proves that you did it. If something is false, it cannot prove that you did it. This little mini hearing is for the purpose to show that the area where we are going to be drawing from the pool for the jurors, this area already believes that Bryan Kohberger is guilty. And that preconceived idea comes from false information. And do you know how hard it is then to change those people's minds at then trial? And that's what this guy is talking about. They have done studies on it, and that's what this information is to show. And if I was Bill Thompson, I would say, listen, continue with the survey. We want to keep the trial here in Latah County, but I am willing to pull the jury from a different county. Why isn't he arguing it that way? Because I bet you Ann Taylor would agree to that. Do you understand what that means? That means we're going to get the jury pool from a different county. Because this county is prejudicial, biased.
Is not true, okay? I mean, I guess we can just say, well, it's not true on some of these questions. Maybe that helps to reduce bias. But if we don't make...
He doesn't, and Judge doesn't understand it. Thank you so much, Jen. I think that this hearing needs to be sent to, I know they got to be working on something. This judge doesn't get it. You want us to ask these questions, but then after we do the survey, say, hey, by the way, we want to let you know out of those 9, what aren't true. You know how you heard, seen, or read this? Well, guess what? That's not true. And then you're going to get into this. Well, who says it's not true? The disclosures made by the prosecutor and the defense counsel want you guys to know that that's not true. Number 2, that's true. Number 3, that's true. Number 4, that's not true. But Judge, the question then becomes this. It's called cause and effect. The information is out there. You cannot undo that. But don't you want to see what the effect was from that cause of getting that out there? Cause and effect. I mean, I swear I don't think that these people, like, I don't know how they educate people in Idaho, but I'm not trying to be mean. I'm curious of of the level of who was educating people. Because we're not embedding anything into anyone. Asking a question doesn't make it a true statement. If I ask you a question, it does not make my question true. If you ask your significant other, hey, are you cheating on me? Or if you ask your friends, hey, have you heard, seen, or read that Mark is cheating on me? No. Okay, well, I was just wondering. It doesn't mean Mark is cheating on you. You're asking your friends if they've heard that. I'm just like, have you heard, seen, or read that this person has herpes? I'm about to do a dating game show. I'm the person that's the contestant. Have you heard, seen, or read anywhere that these 10 people have herpes? Well, I want to know that. I want to know. It doesn't mean that those people have herpes because I'm asking you if they have herpes. I'm just trying to explain this in a way that does not mean me asking you a question does not mean what I'm asking you is I just have never, how they connect A's to B's to C's, these dots is troublesome, is problematic. And I just mean it in general over there in Idaho. So I asked my friend, I was like, she lives there. I was like, are you guys dumb? This seems like this is really, it's uneducation. Like, are they educated? What's this education like? It just seems that this is very uneducated conversation. And that their logic and reasoning and cause and effect just doesn't add up to me. It's not how I was taught. It's not how I was taught. You know, if somebody asks you a question, they're inquiring because they want to know something. Hey, did you do your homework? Yes or no? That doesn't mean that I
make that clear, then it could increase spikes. I think. I don't know. Tell me. Maybe. Well, I'll hear this.
He says, I think. Wait, tell me. No, we have we have the expert here. But this is where she says it. This is where she says, I'm not going to do something.
The expert.
I'm going to say it like this. Mr. Kohberger is my client, and his rights are of the utmost importance to me. Him being treated fair, his presumption of innocence, him having an impartial.
There's the word. The presumption of innocence is not there in Latah County. Bryan Kohberger is in no way, shape, or form being presumed innocent. Okay? It's not there. You guys understand that? So this is the United States of America where you are supposed to be seen innocent until proven guilty. And I will tell you guys till I'm blue in the face, the families, they're always going to get a pass with me. They can, because nobody knows how they would act. Nobody knows how they would do this. Nobody knows how they would respond. But they are 100% like believing that Bryan Kohberger he's not innocent until proven guilty. If you guys heard Mr. Gonsalves's last interview, he said, we already know what the outcome is going to be. Let's get it going. I'm really, really, really disappointed in that. Because I thought that we didn't know what the outcome was going to be. I thought that we were trying to get the truth out, okay? Because for 7 weeks, while there wasn't a suspect in custody, okay? For 7 weeks, a lot of people are running their own investigations, right? I believe that you want to get this on the road we want to put this in the courts so that we can get all the truth out there, okay? Justice comes from the truth. And if anybody thinks anything other than that, then I'm sorry, but you're backwards. In order for my daughter or son in our family to get justice, we need to know we need to know the truth. Because I know as a parent, I could tell you this, that I would never want this to happen to another kid or their family. If we cover the entire truth, this could happen to another kid and family. That's my opinion.
Partial jury, those are important things to me, as is his right to counsel. I am not standing up here saying, let me tell you about this survey. Let me finish this survey to hurt him. I'm saying there is pervasive media coverage in this case. It's prejudicial media coverage. We've conducted a survey in Latah County. That survey is going to show bias and that you shouldn't have a trial in this county. What I'm trying to do is say, do you want me to give you information about another place where maybe the bias isn't so great, where maybe Mr. Kohberger can have a fair trial? I'm his advocate. I want to help him. I believe in his innocence. I'm not going to stand in this courtroom and do anything wrong to him at all. I need you to hear the information so you can make a decision, to have the surveys, to have the information when we come back here for change of venue and make a decision on all of the information, right?
Okay, now, you guys can say that Ann Taylor's doing her job by saying that. Ann Taylor's not doing her job by saying, I am advocating for Bryan's innocence. I believe in Bryan's innocence. Ann Taylor and other lawyers would say, I am advocating for Bryan's right to a fair trial. All of our right to a fair trial. That's not what she just said there. She said that a couple minutes before that. But what you heard her say right there is that she is advocating for Bryan because she believes in Bryan's innocence, and she's not going to do anything to Bryan. She's not going to do anything to him. She's not going to do something that would jeopardize, like, I'm not doing anything because it's going to hurt Bryan Kohberger. I am representing Bryan to the best of my ability, but on top of that, I believe in his innocence. That is powerful. And not one single media outlet has talked about it. How is that possible? How aren't the media outlets saying, holy shit, Ann Taylor just exclaimed she believes Bryan Kohberger is innocent? Not that I am doing all this to represent, and because he has rights. You guys, not a single freaking, you want to know why? You want to know why they're not? Well, they're not doing it because that would help Bryan Kohberger, okay? I also think they're not doing it because that'll just totally blow up their narrative that they've ran with for 17 fucking months, okay? But they're not running with that because they are bought and paid for. They are bought and paid for. Anytime you talk about something just in matter of fact, people want to get that misconstrued with that you, oh my God, but you're not, that means that you're against the victims. How can I be against the victims? Okay. How can I be against the victims when I am looking for the truth? If you want to twist that shit, that's on you. I am not against the victims. That sounds so ridiculous. I will never victim blame. Show me where I've ever done that. But that's immediately what people want to go to. If we were to sit out and anybody was to say, oh my God, Ann Taylor says that she believes in Bryan Kohberger's innocence. Who better? That is credible information right there. That is credible as fuck, because you know why? Ann Taylor, she has an oath. She's an officer of the courts. And Taylor isn't going to say something like that. She's seen all of the discovery that she has up to the point of whatever, she can get in. And so is her team. She also has heard what Bryan Kohberger has to say to her. Okay. For nobody to be mentioning that, when I woke up this morning, I ran through, I want to see what every single title is out there when they went ahead and titled what this hearing was called. And it is pathetic. It is laughable. And you guys are nothing but sheep. You guys are bought and paid for gaslight and spinning motherfuckers. That's all y'all. And you guys are run by people that only care about money. Go look at any of these cases where they did a trial or did a survey hearing. Pull up these hearings, and I want to hear the declaration from the Aurora shooter, being who represented him, which they were public defenders out of Colorado, who were tier A. Chris Watts had tier C, public defenders. That Aurora shooter guy, he had tier A, public defenders. They did a change of venue attempt. Go listen to that hearing. Do you hear his attorney saying this in that hearing, that he's not the one? Ann Taylor does not need to be saying that. Ann Taylor wouldn't say it if she didn't believe it. Ann Taylor, and she's credible because she has the information. So I want to know why Steve Gonsalves thinks that Bryan Kohberger is so fucking guilty, and yet Ann Taylor thinks that he's innocent. She has the material. Steve doesn't. Steve wasn't being given anything from anybody, right? They weren't giving the family stuff. He had to come out and get the media involved because he wasn't being given shit. And he said they have 2 different types of deaths. I believe that Steve Gonsalves is going to be called to that stand. I do. I said it before. I said it way back then. I believe he's going to be called to that stand. I believe that every single word that he has ever said to the media is very interesting. I would ask Steve where he got every single piece of information. Every single piece of information. I would ask him where he got it from. It's relevant. I want to know what Steve got from YouTubers. I want to know what Steve got from the police. I want to know what Steve got from the prosecutor. I want to know what Steve got from the coroner. I want to know the source. And Steve is not protected because he is not media. But asking Steve Gonsalves where he got all the different things that he's ever spoken about is 100% relevant. I want piece by piece. Yep. Who told you this? Steve has a right to be angry. Christy has a right to be angry. I want them to be angry at the right people. I don't believe that Ann Taylor is spinning anything. I don't believe that Ann Taylor is, or her team, who we're going to hear from next, is spinning anything, is blowing smoke up our asses, is gaslighting us. Absolutely not. Unless there is all this other discovery that simply has not been turned over, which I find that hard to believe that you're not turning over all this stuff that totally points to Bryan Kohberger's, guilt, so that you can start talking about, okay, are we going to take a plea deal here to save this man's life? All right. You would think everybody out there wants to say this. Everybody that thinks that Ann Taylor can be bought and paid for because she went to Idaho, you guys are just wild. We'd be talking about plea deals. That's what would be coming up right now. All right. Ann Taylor is not going to say that she believes in Bryan Kohberger's innocence and then turn around and tell Bryan Kohberger to cut a deal. I'm here to save your life. That's not what's going to happen. Ann Taylor telling us that in this hearing is powerful for the number one reason, which now, if you're the university, if you're the police department, if you're the government, your money is totally effed right now. This is going to cost so much money. You guys don't even have a clue how much it's going to cost. This is going all the way. This is going to expose stuff as it should. This is going to expose stuff on different connections because I have some bombshells. And when I'm ready to tell them, I will be telling them. I can connect certain people from Dr. Drake Moore case to this case, not just law enforcement. That's a bombshell. I can connect people that are connected to the Drake family that through one very, very close person in both of the Gonsalves's life and the Drake family's life, I can connect dots. And I think I would want to know about that. I can tell you that the Idaho State Police Department and local law enforcement completely buried and hid evidence. They hid surveillance cameras. They acted like this place did not have them when they did. Purposely did not go and try to obtain another business camera because of what it would have shown. But we can't go and get that. So let's just let the time run out where, oh God, we went to go get it, but it was recorded over. Or it was past the 2 weeks. There is going to be no plea deal. There is no way that this is going to trial in the summer of 2025. Not what Ann Taylor can and will do, because she's going to be making so many filings, so many motions, because of there's definitely going to be a Franks hearing. You want to know why? Because homegirl, after Ann Taylor here, she straight up says that there's so many mistruths in the PCA. We're going to get to that right here. But not one single media outlet that you would call mainstream media, okay, is talking about the huge bombs that took place in here, in this courtroom yesterday. Those of you guys who have been following the Karen Reed case, I think that Alan Jackson should team up with Ann Taylor right after he's done representing Karen Reed. I believe that this case screams corruption. I believe that this case screams inept. And I thank God that I read the motions when I did, and I came across the name Gary Tolson, because if I wouldn't have seen that, I wouldn't have ever found the Drake Moore case. And that case in itself and the information that will come out in that case 100% will help the defense for Bryan Kohberger. And now you guys can say that I'm sitting here helping a murderer. I'm not helping a murderer. I'm sitting here doing what's right, which is the truth. The truth should tell us that Bryan Kohberger committed 4 horrible homicides. The truth should tell us that he didn't. The truth should tell us the evidence should speak for itself.
Right now, if we come in and do our change of venue, we're going to say you can't have this jury in Latah County, but I can't tell you a better place that will protect him better. And that's what I want to do.
Any response, Mr. Thompson?
He had nothing to say, which was good, after she says that she believes in Bryan Kohberger's innocence, not just his rights, that he is innocent. And if you go back and read, they use the word place and sheath next to each other. That's the only thing that's tying Bryan Kohberger to this case. Everything else is completely circumstantial, junk science that will be shown, I believe, But why hasn't the cast report been turned in? It's been how long? That's what you put in the PCA. How is that not in? And now,
We're here to argue about venue today. We aren't here to argue about what.
and let's go right here to when.
Ignoring the court reporter, and I'm just so immense in this that I need to.
And changing the process that is impacted in the United States Supreme Court law. And the United States Supreme Court law requires that part of the analysis for the court on presumed prejudice include false media coverage. It's not enough for it to be all truthful media coverage. So before you start suggesting that an expert change his methodology that's accepted practice, it's really important that you go back and look at Skilling and Haddon and the lineage of cases that get us to venue and what the court has to decide in determining presumption. The question you asked, be answered today, is where do we go from here in the survey process? I want to answer that question in two parts by summarizing what we can do and what we can't do. We can and we need to finish the process that the defense undertook. It was completely valid. It was standard in cases like this. Dr. Edelman is an expert in this field, and he has done this jury research and this work for 15 years. Nothing about the format, the methodology, the questions, or the fact of the survey itself was wrong. You've talked about two questions that you are describing as false because they're not in the affidavit. But if you look at that affidavit and what the media has done with those things is they have created a narrative based on the facts that are represented in the affidavit. Now, I would agree that there's a lot of information in that affidavit that is just flat not true. But if we focus on where we are right now, there are representations in the affidavit about multiple trips to Moscow from Pullman and a return trip to Moscow from Pullman in the morning that lead a reader to the word of stalking, that you have a problem with that word being included. Reflect back on the case law in the United States Supreme Court about showing false information, but also look at that affidavit and the way the media has construed that in its representations, in its reporting that is so prejudicial. Because the basis for this spin, the foundation is right there in what you are describing as the public record. Now, I fundamentally disagree that the only public record in this case is what's there on the 12-page docket. The public record in this case that the entire nation, the world, and looking at, and especially Latah County, is derived and construed out of that public record.
So can I ask you a question about that? This public record thing is really kind of circling around because what's the purpose then of the non-dissemination order? If everything out there in the public is
give me the discovery.
public record.
Come on,
Well,
baby.
my understanding, Your Honor, is that it's one of the primary issues was the credibility of the person that is out there speaking. We did not want law enforcement, 159 officers out there talking about police reports and disseminating that. We didn't want the prosecutor doing press conferences like we saw on 12/30/2022. We didn't want the defense getting up and doing press conferences based on the information because we have information that no one else has, and we are consulting with experts that the public doesn't know about. And so we have a level of credibility that the others don't have. And so that is my understanding of what we're trying to get a hold of.
She says this also well. Okay. He just says, well, then why do we have, like, first of all, he's like, what do you mean when you're going to talk about this public record? The public record is when you go to the Idaho major interest case website and you see the docket is the public record. That's the public record for Bryan Kohberger, the case. There's only the reason for the gag, as she's saying here, and this is very interesting. This is very important. It was for 160 officers. Be quiet. Because do you remember what one of those officers told Brian Enton? That Bryan Kohberger was digging through his trash with double gloves on, And this came from the Pennsylvania State Police. It's just so funny and so crazy that the case that I did before, this one, that was like, where I can prove corruption and I can prove same thing, is the Pennsylvania State Police Department. That's why I showed you guys Sheldon Jeter Jr.'s, one of his witnesses' interviews. And it was taking place in an interrogation room. And then they switched interrogation rooms and took him outside that room, but forgot that, oh, that is still being recorded and audio recorded. And then that detective tries to run on over and shut that door really quick. And then I enhanced it so we could still hear it, because then the door cracks back open. That was God. But I'm correlating and showing you, oh, wait, why are you guys never going to see Pennsylvania body cams? Because Pennsylvania State Police, but they don't have body cams. I told you guys back then. But we don't want anybody talking, because the false narrative is coming from the police department. Just like they told us that there were no witnesses that saw anything, that they were all sleeping downstairs. Now in the PCA, now they put Dylan in her room where this killer just was walking back and forth, but he goes on a killing spree, but then just doesn't do anything to her. Whoever is going to believe that? Well, like, I hope that there's one juror that decides to write, whoever becomes on this jury. I hope there is one juror out there that will keep a fucking diary. That is my one request. Please keep a diary of every single day. This jury needs to be sequestered. This jury needs to be protected, like police protection.
And it's been pretty effective in this case until this valid survey that happens in high-profile cases has been construed to be something nefarious, which it absolutely is not.
She hits right there on the biggest point. You guys, the gag order was working until Bill Thompson, or I'm sorry, back up, until the Latah County citizens started contacting their, not police, their prosecutor. They didn't even call the police. They went to the prosecutor's office and called him. And then there was this ridiculous investigation into who was calling. Why wouldn't you just call you? Bill Thompson's already stated it. I'd be calling him at the change of venue hearing. Bill Thompson, you said that you were expecting us to be doing a survey. So when you got the first phone call that someone was getting surveys, why didn't you call us on March 8th? If you knew, because we knew there was going to be a survey, like acting like they know, then why didn't you call us March 8th? Why would you launch an investigation into who was calling, who was doing this? Why wouldn't you just call us and ask us if you were expecting this? And then also, if you were expecting it, then why would it be such a, okay, oh, well, yeah, they're doing, hey, remember how we thought they were going to do a survey? They're doing it. Right? I could just think about that in your head. They're doing a survey. It's no big deal. They're doing exactly what we thought that they were going to be doing. But then they got another call. And then this person happened to say, hey, I recorded it. How do we know that? Well, I'll get there a different day. I recorded it, and the other person wrote a summary about it, but none of these people called the defense. Remember, because in this example, or in this, when he testifies, he says, nobody knew what side we were calling from. Nobody knew if the prosecution was running the survey or if the defense was running the survey. So my question is why did it shows prejudicial that after you got done with the survey that why didn't you call the public defender's office of Kootenai County and ask Ann Taylor if they were running a survey? Wouldn't you be asking both parties to see who you were talking to? And then you got Judge chiming in saying, well, I would not be answering anybody if they called me. Okay. Well, you're also the same guy that doesn't understand that asking a question isn't injecting information. But if these concerned citizens wanted to know who was calling them, why didn't they call the police? Oh my God, somebody's calling me and asking me questions. Oh my God. It's because Latah County residents don't call the police. There's a huge disconnect. Bethany didn't call the police. Dylan didn't call the police. Oh wait, now these citizens who got surveys, they didn't call the police. They called the prosecutor. Why? Who has ever, if something happened, I'm calling the prosecutor. I'm calling the prosecutor's office. You guys, that should blow your minds to the point of how can we get a fair trial or a fair jury and an unbiased jury? None of those jury members are going to think that it's weird not to call the police because nobody in Latah County calls the police. They're going to be like, well, I don't call the police. Oh, I saw some weird guy in my house that called. No, I wouldn't think that that's weird. Oh, but you get a survey and you call the prosecutor? Come on, man. Like, no jury member there, in my opinion, is going to think that it's not weird to not call the police. You know what that would smell like in that house? Ask any nurse.
As you've heard, it's been used in Boston bombing, the Parkland shooting, the Colorado theater, George Floyd, hundreds of cases going back decades. Dr. Edelman's declaration and now his testimony are uncontroverted evidence before this court on this issue. It's the actual evidence that the court, and finally today, you're getting informed about the validity and the science behind the process. Nothing that was done is worth the hysteria and the hyperbole that keeps getting expressed in this courtroom. The questions asked, the topics, the order.
The media made this hysteria, but they made it hysteria from Bill Thompson doing that. Bill Thompson, in my opinion, you just went ahead and by even holding this and doing all this in itself, and that's what the guy even testified to. There was a survey done, a 9-question survey, and 2 of those questions made Bill Thompson lose his shit. Why? And then the judge's solution is to let's just take out those 2 questions. What? Why? Well, because they're false. Okay, then in your order, you better be prepared to repair the damage that the public perceives that the defense did all of this bad things and that the judge was reprimanding Ann Taylor. Did you guys see for the past week what those headlines said? They bring it up in this hearing, and he shows it. That's all designed. The media is murdering this case. The media is murdering the defense. And I want to know why. This can be such a heinous crime, and it is. But that doesn't give the media the right to then go heinous and be so heinous with its coverage of a heinous crime. In fact, I don't know how it's not illegal. Because without these people saying, in my opinion, this is my opinion, how is this not slander? How is this not defamation? How are you not defaming Ann Taylor every time you write a freaking article and then you say the stuff that you say? The media has been heinous, and it's been heinous one way. The media has not been critical at all of Bill Thompson. The media was critical of the investigation in the beginning, right? But then came back and tried to rehabilitate their relationship with Moscow, Idaho by saying, well, here we thought that they were just in a inept, little law enforcement, town, and they were showing up, but then boom, here we go, we have this arrest. Well, if you thought such little of them, how can arresting one person with the shittiest PCA I've ever seen next to Richard Allen's, how does that give you comfort in writing and covering the case as you are? Just because Bryan Kohberger was arrested does not mean he is innocent until proven guilty. And remember, it was not seen, that sheath, the way that Blaker and Payne describe it in their walkthroughs. It was later noticed. So it just didn't jump right out at you, right? It wasn't just... There's stuff out there saying that Bryan Kohberger's blood, it's blood that's on that sheath. It's his. That's what the DNA was that traced back to him. The police department was getting so much, the university was getting so much slack. That is why they had to have that arrest. And they needed to be an outsider. So that person, so that everybody out there that lives in Idaho would continue to send their kids to school there, and everybody that doesn't live in Idaho would continue to send their kids to school there. Because this doesn't happen here. We aren't these type of people. But when people outside of Idaho come into our town, this is what happens. That's the narrative. The arrest of Bryan Kohberger it happened before kids would be coming back to school. They had no business arresting anybody at that point because they didn't have the material. Doesn't matter if it was Bryan, doesn't matter who the fuck it would have been. That's why the discovery deadline, in my opinion, is all the way until September. You should have had everything that you used to arrest whoever it was going to be that you arrested. If Ann Taylor does not start receiving the backing that her words and this woman's words said in this hearing from media outlets, shame on you. Shame.
The open-ended, the specifics, they were all done using information that is out there for everyone to see. And the research methods used to determine what was out there is the traditional way and the scientific method that experts in this field use, just as Dr. Edelman testified. And to be sure, the purpose of this is to give you information so that you can make an informed decision about venue. It's not for a nefarious purpose. It's to arm you with facts and information so that you can apply the United States Supreme cases that have been adopted in Idaho and determine whether or not there's presumed prejudice. You know, when we first started talking about whether or not there was going to be this venue hearing sooner rather than later, Ms. Beatty for the state said at least 3 times, Judge, they can't just come in here with affidavits. This case law says that they have to have more. The more that we are gathering to provide you, at least part of it, is this survey. In terms of the proposition that this survey taints the jury pool, first of all, you heard from Dr. Edelman that if someone answers they don't know, a second question tapping into that is asked and the process stops. There's no other questions other than demographics because they don't want to poison anybody who doesn't know. So for there to be this proposition that all of these questions, these 9 questions that are later on in the process were put out there intentionally to poison the jury pool, that's just flat false. And the other point is you can't taint what's tainted. When you hear what the statistics are as it relates to this.
That is going down in history right there. You can't taint the taint, guys. The taint is the taint. Okay? You can't taint the taint. You can't taint what's already been tainted. Just like you saw something, you can't unsee it, you can't undo it. But by God, we need to get some hoodies. You can't taint the taint. And occasionally I like to do something where it's, let's see. All right. Can't taint the taint. If I don't see one of you guys with a hoodie that says that soon, I'm gonna be really, really upset.
This county, 97% of the people had familiarity with the case. 79% of the people knew 5 or more prejudicial and false media reports. 81% of those who had heard about the stalking had determined and took a position that Mr. Kohberger is guilty. These people that were surveyed didn't form the opinion when they were being surveyed. And they didn't then go research their already strongly held opinion because of the survey. These are deeply held opinions in this community within this jury pool. The Latah County citizens have accepted.
She nails it right there. If you think that these 9 questions changed or will change these strong opinions of these citizens of Latah County, then why do you guys campaign for so long when you guys go to office? Why do you guys spend all that money campaigning? Why don't you guys just do some fucking phone surveys? That's what I wanted to say to the guy. You want to be judge? You want to run for prosecutor? You want to run for DA? Whatever. Don't spend money campaigning. Just do some phone surveys. And you're just going to change the minds of everybody. We're going to inject you with by us asking these questions, we're going to inject you with all this other knowledge that you're going to possess now and feel that Bryan Kohberger is innocent. Ridiculous. Let's see if you start campaigning that way, and you won't, right? Because your argument fails. It falls at every level. It's just that simple.
Accepted the information placed before them by state actors. It's not just Mr. Thompson that did a media report and talked about the probable cause affidavit. Chief Fry, the coroner Kathy Mabott. We've got search warrants from Pennsylvania out there in the public record. We've got hundreds of search warrants in the public record out there from Idaho. We've got all kinds of pleadings. This is all information that's put out into the media. And having the state now claim this moral high ground is an oxymoron. It's a complete oxymoron.
Amen.
For state actors to put this information out in the public and now say, hey, wait, if you want to ask if people have believed the information that we put out there, you can't do that. That harms Mr. Kohberger. We as a defense team have the obligation and frankly the privilege of defending Mr. Kohberger and defending his right to a fair trial. And in doing so,
powerful. And frankly, the privilege. We have the privilege of defending Mr. Kohberger. That's kind of how I feel like that Baldwin and Rossi feel about defending Richard Allen. Like, thank God we are the ones that are doing this. We believe in his innocence. We're going to prove that he is innocent, but we shouldn't have to be doing any of that right now, right? And it's actually not our burden to prove that Mr. Kohberger is innocent. They have to prove that Mr. Kohberger is guilty. But when you want to subject us to a jury pool that 87% of these people already think that Bryan Kohberger is guilty, we're starting a football game down 40-0, and only with the second half to come back. Is that fair? No, nobody would ever play a football game like that. It's one thing if you go and you play it in a away stadium. Yeah, that's your advantage, right? You got a home game, sure, it's an advantage. But there's no way that anybody would be like, yeah, we're going to start a game down 40 points. That's for Vegas, and that's called gambling. We're not going to gamble with Mr. Kohberger's life when we don't have to gamble with Mr. Kohberger's life. We're not having this fucking hearing or trial in this fucking town. What don't you get? And we're not having it because it's Bryan Kohberger's right to not have it here based on the information that the survey that has been used since 1979, and I don't see the prosecution sitting over there with a witness that's an expert to combat and say, wait a second, I've been doing this too. He ain't the only one that's doing some surveys in town. He is not the only doctor that conducts shit this way. This is how I conduct it. And I think that this is absolutely, remember what the word was? These are so inappropriate questions. Well, Bill, guess what? That's your opinion. That's your opinion. And it's not an expert opinion because you have nothing to back it up. So go get me an expert that is in this field to combat what this, that is how law works. You go and get witnesses and okay, they have an expert. Now we got to go find an expert, show them what they've done, show them what he's done, and have somebody get on the stand that's going to say, wait a second, that's actually, I do the same thing that he does. And that's not how we do it. This is how we do it. That's how you argue this. None of this should even be happening right now because Bill Thompson knew that there was going to be a survey. And then once he found out what the survey was, he should have kept his fucking big mouth shut, right? Got himself a witness that's an expert, showed him all of this and say, okay, now you walk me through your, I guess when you don't know how to play a lawyer and you're supposed to just hold your cards close to you and, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. He's like, God, I have to get an advantage somehow because this is going to move it. So I have to tamper with that being moved. So I have to do this. This was their strategy plan. He said he met with his team and we decided to file this motion. Bill Thompson had no choice but to do this in a hopes to save what he thought would be saving Latah County from still being able to be, the venue that's holding this and where the jury is going to come from. And I'm telling you that that's going to come up. That this was strategy. That this was all this, none of this should even be happening right now. And there should still be that hearing on May 4th. And Bill Thompson, you're going to see the declaration of their, expert, and this is what they conducted. Then Bill Thompson, remember you have that time to reply. That's why, she has a deadline and then she gets you her briefing and all of her material. And then you get it and then you go through it. And then you have your time to then brief it back and then go get who you need to combat it. That's what you do. And no, Bill Thompson looked at everything and said, okay, how can we kind of go around this strategically to try to get all of this thrown out? And I'm telling you, this will go to the higher courts if the judge does not file quickly and file that he sees nothing wrong with it after he's gotten the material. And this is what's done in other, in other cases. The case law is there. Defense, you can resume, and we will, have the hearing on that date, but your work can start up, and boom, done. So him saying that he can't have an answer to this in a short amount of time, I struggle with that. Who does he have to talk to? Who does he need to get some stuff okayed by? I mean, case law is case law.
So, in arguing that venue should be changed, we have to show you that there is presumed prejudice in this community. And since we have the burden of this, and you now know essentially from this expert that there is presumed prejudice in Latah County, you have to ask yourself, do you want more information to know where the better venue is? And that takes me to the next point, which is what we cannot do. You've heard Dr. Edelman say that it goes outside of his standard of practice and the scientific method that has been used for decades, that has been used in hundreds of cases, to take your ideas about what should be in questions, to take the state's ideas about what's being firmly believes in Mr. Kohberger's innocence. And right now, he's being held to be in your jury pool. Second, and more importantly, I can't find statutory and legal authority for you to strike 400 people out of veneer up front. I found the opposite. As you know,
So one of Judge's things was he's like, well, maybe what we can do is get all the phone numbers of the people that were called, and we can just exclude them from being, having the possibility to even be on the jury. Wait till you see this. Wait till you see this if you haven't seen.
clerk of the jury commissioner pulls from the jury pool that's approved by Idaho Code. And this is a really important section in Idaho Code 2-202. It is the policy of this state that all persons selected for jury service be selected at random from a fair cross-section of the population, and that all qualified citizens have the opportunity to be considered for jury service.
Rest assured, I was just being sarcastic.
Okay, well, I took your sarcasm to heart, I guess.
Rest assured, I was just being sarcastic. No, he was not, you guys. He was not being sarcastic at all. He was not. He 100% was not being sarcastic. But he felt the need to interrupt her and say that.
Last
I
week,
apologize.
because it was a very serious day, right?
Every day is very serious.
Right, but last Thursday was in particularly a tough one. I think we can all agree.
There's going to be more tough ones ahead, I'm sure.
For sure. And we all need to give each other grace.
Thank you.
I will end by saying this. Our defense team firmly, and I mean firmly,
and I mean firmly, if you can't handle the truth, get the fuck out of my fucking life. This defense team, she's like, I will end by saying this. She wants to make a point. I will end by saying this. Our defense team firmly, and I mean firmly,
believes in Mr. Kohberger's innocence. And right now he's being held to have a trial in a county that
in his innocence, not in his right to be presumed innocent. Okay. In his innocence. Where are you, mainstream media? Do you think that these decorated folks that are representing Mr. Kohberger are just telling us this? They have gone through how many pages of this discovery, of lab reports, of this, of that, of everything, all this video, however much they humanly have possibly have been able to do to this point. She does not say that we firmly believe in his right to anything. We firmly believe in his innocence. And nobody's talking about that. Now, that is absolutely wild to me. Because this is credible. This woman's credible, and Taylor's credible. This is credible information. I don't need to go out there and interview people, have them on my channel that aren't credible, right? We can interview people to get information, sure. But this right here, this is credible. And what I've chose to do over the past couple months is to compile 5 binders of 73 to 100 page supplemental reports from ISP. Go through video surveillance or video surveillance to compile certain things. Interviewing people from past cases. Because it's not what you know, it's what you can prove, right? I too believe that there is something remarkably wrong in this case. Remarkably, like this case it needs to be buried because, oh my God, if this stuff comes out, the stuff that's going to come out in this case, right? This is that case. This case is going to be watched by more people, and it should be watched by more people than the O.J. Simpson case. Remember those search warrants that needed to be sealed? And remember, we had to do everything hush hush because they had no idea it was going to be in the apartment of Bryan Kohberger. Remember how they were filing all that stuff and making it seem like, God, shit, Bryan Kohberger, he might have his apartment, who knows, booby trap rigged to be blown up, or that he has all of this stuff on his walls that are just like, you know, everything that came from all of that crap netted zero. Everything netted zero. Netted zero. All the hysteria. And it's still continuing today. The timeline in this case is so important. The timeline's everything in this case. And I just hope that there's some good ass people still on those forces that were used in some capacity. Start whistleblowing, motherfuckers. Start whistleblowing.
Believes that he is guilty. In this country, we pride ourselves on a jury system that doesn't stand for that. In this moment, I see that you have 2 choices. You can let us continue and do comparative surveys as planned, or you can maintain the stay. And at the venue motion, you will hear that the data for Latah County shows a presumption of prejudice, but you will not have comparative surveys to fully inform the court. As you consider this, there is absolutely nothing that gets risked if you change venue. But if you deny a change of venue, Mr. Kohberger's constitutional right to a fair trial is denied. There's only one human being in this case with a right to a fair trial. It's Mr. Kohberger's and his alone.
It's
There's
not
no legal
anybody
right
else.
of this community to have a jury trial here. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that may be a hard pill for people to swallow, okay? But this is Bryan Kohberger's trial. That does not take away from the victims in any capacity. And if you choose to try to spin that, shame on you. You keep talking about the victims and you keep talking about the positivity that their lives up to that point. But this is Bryan Kohberger's trial. And people are forgetting that. And she reminded everybody of it. But telling the world on a national stage, which guess what, guys? The media is trying to cover this part of it up. But they're credible. They believe in their client's innocence. That should tell you everything you need to know. And that should tell you why people like myself and other people that have platforms and that have that strong reach, you need to start covering this case without the blinders on and without this crap. You need to start taking the clips just like this one.
Is honest.
Haley's name.
Your sweater or your jacket or your hat, it's next to impossible. It's just how many other people have walked through that house, through the
How many other people have walked through that house? There's 3 still unidentified male DNAs in that house. And the only one that anybody was ever concerned with, to include the police and to include all the victims and their families, is just that one that seems so out of place. And then this.
ages, honest.
Mispronunciation of.
Remember, the judge couldn't even say the names.
The situation with the mispronunciation of Haley's name and of Xana's name. And I was thinking, how could that happen? Well, I believe perhaps this judge is probably like an FBI agent. We don't watch media about our cases. I would guess this judge hasn't watched a lot of media. Has he read about it? Perhaps. So maybe he hasn't heard over and over these names. I am not trying to give an excuse. I'm trying to provide a possible explanation. Profiling and college and everything else, because he'll be the first one we know of that used social media as opposed to what BTK.
Comparing him to BTK.
Ad nauseum.
And this is when she talks about that Papa Rogers is Bryan Kohberger.
This will be studied ad nauseum in every profiling and college and everything else, because he'll be the first one we know of that used social media as opposed to what BTK did, writing into various media outsourced. I mean, to me, that's why I'm a little bit sidetracked with it, down my rabbit hole. Is, do I think Bryan Kohberger used Papa Roger to communicate with social media about his crimes? My needle is way to the right that yes, it's him, but I'm still at a stopgap because of 3 things, really 3 main things. The others I've been able to dispel now, but one is the fact that on the profile it says her. But I'm not convinced that that wasn't done purposefully for multiple reasons. Number 2, he has a very odd post that he sends to the it's an Indiana school board about budgeting. But I'm very close, I shouldn't spend time on this, to popping a connection there. And we're close. Breaking news and Papagate. But we'll see if for sure. And then the other one was California, a tweet regarding an individual in California.
Why I think this is so reckless is because Jennifer Coffeneffer comes with the name attached of that she was, ex-FBI. Okay. And so that's why hearing things like this coming from somebody that stating, that you're used to be with the FBI, that comes with a credibility behind it. And this is just the most ridiculous shit I've ever seen in my life. Oh yeah, thanks. Then also check this out. So this morning, I'm going to show you one more, and then I'm going to go back to what I have on this other one, which is, hold on.
In a Latah County. Okay, so for the second time in 2 weeks, the man accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students was in a Latah County courtroom. And while the state and the defense and the judge are all trying to figure out how and where to hold his trial and how to pick a jury, by the end of today's hearing, things got pretty salty. Prosecutors angry with the defense after Kohberger's lawyer sent out a survey throughout the whole county asking questions about the case. Some of them true, some of them not so true.
Have you lost your fucking mind, Ashley? They didn't send out a survey throughout the whole entire community. So let's talk about all the mistakes in this, what she says.
Okay, so for the second time in 2 weeks, the man accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students was in a Latah County courtroom. And while the state and the defense and the judge are all trying to figure out how and where to hold his trial and how to pick a jury, by the end of today's hearing, things got pretty salty.
So this was after the second hearing. So after yesterday, this is what Ashley Banfield got from that.
Prosecutors angry with the defense after Kohberger's lawyer sent out a survey throughout the whole county asking questions about the case. Some of them true, some of them not so true.
False. The defense didn't do a damn thing. They hired an expert that does surveys, and 400 people were called privately, individually.
These folks won't actually need a jury, but let me show you a little bit of the hearing. Take a look, because it just got kind of nasty. Take a look.
Wait, what did she just say right there? These folks won't what?
These folks won't actually need a jury, but let me show you a little bit of the hearing.
These folks won't actually need a jury? What?
Asking questions about the case. Some of them true, some of them not so true.
That you started, right? That you started.
Sent out a survey throughout the whole county asking questions about the case. Some of them true, some of them not so true.
No, they were asking them questions as, have you heard, seen, read? You know, that's the way it goes. And it's just, have you heard this? Then some of those questions actually coming to light here that, wow, some of them were not true. Things that we've put out here, things that I've put out here.
These folks won't actually need a jury, but let me show you a little bit of the hearing. Take a look, because it just...
I don't even know what that even means. These folks won't even need... I have no idea what that even means.
Got kind of nasty. Take a look.
You acknowledge false that Mr. Kohberger allegedly stalked one of the victims.
That's false. You know that to be false.
Which one?
Did Mr. Kohberger allegedly stalk one of the victims?
Yes, I was trying not to say that because
But you knew that was false.
I did.
Yes. And so you have now, for anybody who had never heard that before, that question is now planted into them, unqualified representation that Mr. Kohberger stalked one of the witnesses, and that's false.
That's false. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Was there a question there, Bill?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so they're not...
Okay, so Ashley, you told people that Bryan Kohberger was stalking, right?
You're going to need a jury for about another year, right? Because trial's that long away. But lawyers for Kohberger say it's futile to even start looking in Latah County because they say the whole jury pool there is biased against their client. And to prove their point, they hired a psychologist, that guy who was on the stand, to do a phone survey checking on the bias across the county against their client. But some people who got the call were really mad, and they'd called the police, and the prosecutors called the judge.
No, Ashley, that's wrong. These people did not call the police. They called the prosecutor. Wrong again. Wrong again. They called the prosecutor. The prosecutor called the police. Get your shit straight, or I will be here every single day showing your shit straight.
and said, stop the survey. And the judge stopped the survey. So they're arguing, right? Like they want to keep going with the survey. But there's the whole issue of the gag order and everything, right? Today, though, in this hearing, I'm so glad that I listened to it because the defense actually shared the questions in open court. You want to hear what they were? I thought you might. So I wrote them down.
Wait a
I have them
second.
right here.
Wait a second. Wait a second. You're so glad that you actually watched something that you're covering. Thank you. I'm just kidding.
Here we go. Okay. Have you read, seen, or heard if Bryan Kohberger was arrested at his parents' home in Pennsylvania? That's question one. Question two, have you read, seen, or heard if police found a knife sheath on the bed next to one of the victims? Number three, have you read, seen, or heard that DNA found on the knife sheath was later matched to Bryan Kohberger? Number four, have you read, seen, or heard if Bryan Kohberger owns the same type of car recorded seen driving in the neighborhood where the killing?
The question was here, Ashley, is owns the same type of car recorded on video. Okay? We need you to actually read the questions that were asked, read them correctly and don't just put your own verbiage on it, like she does here.
Killings occurred. Number five, have you read, seen, or heard if the cell phone tower data showed that Bryan Kohberger made several trips near the victim's home in the month before the killing? Number six.
It says months, not month. Get it right there, Ashley.
Have you read, seen, or heard if the university students in Moscow and their parents lived in fear until Bryan Kohberger was arrested for the murders? That's kind of interesting.
Why is that one interesting?
Number seven, have you read, seen, or heard if Bryan Kohberger said that he was out driving alone on the night of the murders? Number eight, have you read, seen, or heard that Bryan Kohberger stalked one of the victims? This is really important, guys, because it's not true.
This is really important, guys, because this is not true. Ashley, I am going to go find all of your lives that you've put out there where this is said. Same with crime, law and crime, court TV. Remember, you guys got the media pulled from you. And so we actually can't see anybody's faces anymore because of you guys. So we have to have Judge showing from his YouTube channel, who doesn't know how to use split screen yet. Hopefully somebody helps them out. But we can't see people's reactions to stuff because of you guys. And because of you guys, people in this community across the United States of America and far beyond have read, seen, and heard that Bryan Kohberger stalked one of the victims. Why? Because y'all put it the fuck out there.
And they said so in court. It isn't true. Anybody who reported that he was stalking a victim, they said in court it wasn't true. And the judge is pissed off that that question went out there because it's not true. Number nine.
But have you read, seen, or heard that? But Ashley, why aren't you getting to the good part, which is the people that said yes to that? What is their percentage of saying that Bryan Kohberger is guilty? 87%. Because of what they think they know about this case, that's why they believe Bryan Kohberger is guilty of committing the murders. And it's off of this material because this is what they read, seen, or heard. That's how surveys work. Not if they're fact, but have you read, seen, or heard this? And we didn't even fucking ask you where you heard it from, did we?
Have you read, seen, or heard if Bryan Kohberger had followed one of the victims on social media? Thank you for watching.
Yes, you hosted Steve Gonsalves. You don't have anything to say after that, do you? Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. She did another one. They just didn't do one. They did another one. So let's go to this one.
2022, before that quadruple murder happened, and specifically his interactions with a woman who believes that Kohberger was spying on her electronically in her own home. You may have heard about this story a few months ago. The woman, fellow student, and
This woman has never been heard from. Has never been heard from. This was from 1 month ago. 1 month ago. Former neighbor. Kohberger spied on me. Where is this neighbor? Remember?
an acquaintance of Bryan Kohberger at
You
Washington.
guys do know that spied is stalking. Spying on somebody, stalking them. Would you not say those are the same thing? Former neighbor says Bryan Kohberger spied on her. Ashley Banfield, produce your source. I know who your source is. I dare you to produce it. I dare you to produce your source. Former neighbor says Bryan Kohberger spied on her. Spied, you can just stalk, same fucking thing. Where did you get this story from, Ashley Banfield? I bet you we have the same source.
Washington State University told the police that she thought Kohberger was watching her on her home surveillance cameras, that she had asked him to help install for her safety. The irony. What had happened was her home was broken into. Things were moved around. Nothing was taken, but she thought it was weird. Not weird enough to call the police, but weird enough to call her friend Bryan Kohberger and ask for help.
Nobody calls the police. Nobody calls the police in that area. That is going to be a problem because if your jury thinks it's not a big problem that you don't call the police, that would help the state immensely.
All of that was just a couple of months before Bryan Kohberger is accused of murdering those 4 young people in their off-campus home near the University of Idaho. And tonight we are hearing from a trusted source inside one of the victims' families that the woman who believes Kohberger spied on her is not happy that her interaction with the mass murder suspect is not part of his prosecution. In fact, we're told that nobody in her local police department has even pursued her claims or shares her fear that her personal private images, maybe nudes, possibly could have been leaked by Bryan Kohberger. Maybe they're out there.
I called Don Daniels. Don Daniels says otherwise.
Somewhere.
What she means is that when I say Don Daniels says otherwise, Don Daniels says that anything that's ever been called in has been reported on and looked into. She just told you where her source was, right? You guys just hear that?
That her personal private images, maybe nudes, not part of his prosecution. In fact, we're told that nobody in her local police department has even pursued her claims or shares her fear that her personal private images, maybe nudes, possibly could have been leaked by Bryan Kohberger. Maybe they're out there somewhere. There is some concern that those images would not only be a violation of her privacy, but possibly relevant to the quadruple murder case against Bryan Kohberger. And that is where I turn to Gigi McKelvey. She is the host of Pretty Lies and Alibis, True Crime. Things were moved around. Nothing was taken, but she thought it was weird. Not weird enough to call the police, but weird enough to call her friend Bryan Kohberger and ask for help. All of that was just a couple of months before Bryan Kohberger is accused of murdering those 4 young people in their off-campus home near the University of Idaho. And tonight we are hearing from a trusted source inside one of the victims' families that the woman who believes Kohberger spied on her is not happy that her interaction with the mass murder suspect is not part of his prosecution. In fact,
Where's the source? Next up. So again, former neighbor says Bryan Kohberger spied on her. Okay? Stalking, spied, same thing. I'll take a look at this.
And while the state and the defense and the judge are all trying to figure out how and where to hold his trial and how to pick a jury, by the end of today's hearing, things got pretty salty. That's kind of interesting. Number 7, have you read, seen, or heard if Bryan Kohberger said that he was out driving? Have you read, seen, or heard that Bryan Kohberger stalked one of the victims? This is really important, guys, because it's not true. And they
It's really important, guys, because this is not true.
said so in court. It isn't true. Anybody who reported that he was stalking a victim, they said in court it wasn't true. And the judge is pissed off that that question went out there because it's not true. Number 9, have you read, seen, or heard if Bryan Kohberger had followed one of the victims on social media?
Here it is.
Sorority sisters and one of their boyfriends before he allegedly murdered them, as they apparently slept in.
I put in Ashley Banfield, Bryan Kohberger stalked. Okay, let's take a look. Bryan Kohberger stalked the girls. Former neighbor says Bryan Kohberger spied on her. Ashley Banfield, I've been calling Bryan Kohberger on burner phone. Idaho students, likelihood of Kohberger change of venue is high. Idaho student murders. Defense says jury pool is biased. Special report, Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger. Oh, let's go back to this one, which is
Julie Renman, Bill Thompson, the prosecutor gets the last word that says an October 2nd trial date would be fine for him. But we know that the prosecution has 60 days to decide whether this is going to be a death penalty. And we also know that mitigation on behalf of the defendant has already begun because we're trial attorneys. But because he didn't enter a plea, that gives him a lot of options, doesn't it, in the future, Julie?
Sure. I mean, he would have had those options anyway, but one of the questions we have to ask ourselves is there any way he might plead guilty if the prosecution takes the death penalty off the table? We don't know for sure that they're going to do it, but if we're assuming that they're headed in that direction, that might be one way that we see a plea without a trial happening. And again, this would be something that the defense would be spending quite a lot of time, not only with the prosecution, but with their own client going.
The defense tries to negotiate either with a judge in the future or with a jury who's going to.
Obviously, that is something the defense is going to challenge and challenge hard, the DNA evidence.
Yeah, because that's really the big deal. As we know, that's the one thing that doesn't depend upon, people's eyewitness testimony, which sometimes could be wrong. Julie Rendelman, there's also been speculation about the motive here. Some say, well, maybe he got dissed by one of the victims here, but the diss doesn't mean that he was dissed because he wanted to date somebody and she didn't want to. It could also be a diss to him because of who he is. It could be anything, couldn't it, Julie Rendelman?
Right. And remember, motive, they're not required to prove motive, but motive is certainly helpful for a jury to understand that they're going to bring along with them throughout this case. In terms of his motive, whether.
Sure, and it had a backyard that people could enter and come up with the windows and all. I was like, whoa, let me stay up all night because his look is scary. And when he was in that courtroom today, nothing has changed about that look. He seems that he is going to do what he's going to do. He's going to be strong at it. And I can only imagine if he is the killer, the poor victims in that house. So with that being said, it's wise to keep him out of the courtroom as much as you can if you're a defense attorney, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. He has a very creepy affect. He's very confident. He's not scared. He doesn't look like he doesn't have the look. It sounds silly that he doesn't have the look of somebody who has been falsely accused, because that would be the look of terror and pleading and wanting to make your innocence known. There's nothing about his affect that suggests that.
Yeah, terror and pleading is what I now associate with the victims in this case. So, Julie Rendelman, can the defect, we know that there's an issue
Because this is interesting too. In the affidavit, I mentioned them tracking the cell phone towers, the cell phone records of Bryan Kohberger's phone. They wanted to see if he was stalking the victims ahead of time. And at least 12 prior occasions prior to November 13th, his phone was in the area of the residence. All of these occasions, except for one, occurred in the late evening and early morning hours. For me, that signals premeditation and planning, and why he's being charged with first-degree murder.
I absolutely agree. I noticed that. And I actually have my affidavit, the hard copy, that I actually have it on that page that I was looking at it. It looks like he was stalking them, because that's a lot of contact in an area, or presence in an area, one that you don't live in, and the times of day are very unique. So I think the law enforcement and the prosecution can take that information, in addition to when the cell phone information is available for the individuals, for the victims in the home. Were they there at those particular times? And to see what type of correlation it was, because we don't yet know the potential relationship between the victims and the alleged perpetrator, or if there was any previous contact. It's kind of hard to say, but it looks like stalking to me, based on what is going on here, and that these young ladies and this gentleman, the victims, were not completely aware or didn't have presence of mind to really stay focused on their safety at that time. So it's probably nothing that triggered them to feel so afraid of him, if they knew who he was.
So
with a quick smile and a nod to his lawyer, accused mass murderer Bryan Kohberger faces court and the possibility he himself will die.
The maximum penalty for this offense, if you were to plead guilty or be found guilty, is death or imprisonment for life. Do you understand?
Yes.
He's the sole suspect of the brutal murders of 4 University of Idaho students, but denies he's the killer. Now unsealed court documents details the police case against the criminal justice student. It alleges his DNA was discovered on a knife sheath found laying on the bed of one of the victims, matching a DNA profile found on rubbish in his parents' home. Police say mobile phone data places the 28-year-old at the home of the attack at least a dozen times in the months leading up to and on the night of the killings. One of the 2 surviving roommates providing a statement that she woke and heard crying early that morning before a masked man in black clothing walked past her as she stood in frozen shock. Just days after the murders, police say Kohberger changed his licence plates and was pulled over by traffic officers in a white Elantra, the same car police suspected was linked to the crime.
It's obviously an emotional time for the family, seeing the defendant for the first time. This is the beginning of the criminal justice system, and the family will be here for the long haul.
As Kohberger prepares to fight the case while sitting in a jail cell. In the United States, Sally Guite, 7 News.
One of the biggest leaks in the Idaho case so far might finally lead us towards what the motive might have been.
Look at
in
this
the
shit.
Killings. A law enforcement source tells People magazine that investigators now have digital evidence that suspect Bryan Kohberger was persistently DMing one of the 4 victims before the murders took place on November 13th. Now, the source does not identify which one of the 4 victims was receiving these DMs, but those who've been following the case very closely, people have already been pointing this out online.
This is sick.
News Nation reported, you might remember, that Kaylee Gonzalez, her injuries were far more severe than those of Maddie, Xana, and Ethan.
Steve
now, the
Gonzalez
source
source.
told People magazine, Steve Heller, I'll read the quote here, He slid into one of the girl's DMs several times, but she didn't respond. Basically, it was just him saying, hey, how are you? But he did it again and again. The source also acknowledged that the recipient of these messages, again, one of the 4 victims, might not have seen those messages on social media. It's important to note, too, that this is a single law enforcement source. In the article, they make no mention of a second source to corroborate, and whoever leaked this information to People magazine, they risked their law enforcement career in the process, given the gag order that exists right now in Idaho with this case. Now, if true, these DMs, valuable evidence for prosecutors, but again, leaves major questions. Why did the suspect kill 3 more people in the house, and then also, 2, leave 2 roommates completely unharmed? We'll continue to follow what's going on with the Idaho case. You can follow right here on social media. The very
Oh boy. Atlanta came to play today. Let's go. I don't want to see that shit. All right. 16 hours ago, state absolutely rips apart defense counsel or defense consult over questions asked in Idaho. What? Idaho student murders. Defense says jury pool is biased. Live court. Kohberger hearing on potential juror surveys. The lawyers are mad. Bryan Kohberger hearing. The defense asked what? Live. Kohberger jury tampering hearing. I don't think it's a jury tampering hearing. God damn it. Live. Kohberger hearing. The defense talking to potential jurors. Is Diddy done? Murder assassins. Again, the judge is not happy with Kohberger's defense. Six days ago.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 News at 5. I'm Whitney Ward. Mark is off tonight.
I'm not happy about these specific questions, especially ones that are false.
That is the judge overseeing the high-profile Moscow murder case, and he is not happy with how the defense is handling prospective jurors. Bryan Kohberger is accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students more than a year ago. Today, in the Latah County Courthouse, the prosecutor accused the defense team of trying to taint the local jury pool. KREM 2's Amanda Rowley sat in court for this hearing today. She's joining us now live to share the kinds of questions that survey was asking. Amanda?
The Latah County prosecutor claims 400 potential jurors are now tainted because of a survey set out by the defense attorney for the Moscow murder suspect. Now, the prosecution argues that the questions in this survey are biased and violate the court's dissemination order.
Residents in Latah County recently received calls for a survey about the Moscow murder case. Latah County prosecutor Bill Thompson read a transcript in court from a recording of the survey questions. They include, have you read, seen, or heard about Bryan Kohberger's arrest, that the DNA found on a knife sheath matched the suspect, or that the suspect stalked one of the victims? Thompson argues these are biased questions that impact the local jury pool.
We aren't getting ourselves back into a similar situation, baiting people who may have no knowledge of this case with detailed information.
I don't think I have to make that clear.
Information, some of which is completely false. And not only completely false, but it's false in a sense that makes Mr. Kohberger look bad.
Defense attorney Ann Taylor told the judge these types of surveys are commonly done in high-profile cases. She says the survey company she hired wrote the questions, and they created the survey based on media coverage of the case.
I do not think that these survey questions that related to what have you heard in the media injected information to people.
The judge put a pause on the survey 2 weeks ago until lawyers could meet to discuss it. He didn't make any decisions this afternoon, which means the survey will remain paused until the judge makes a ruling at the next hearing on Wednesday, April 10th.
So this was 6 days, prior to that hearing yesterday, and where we were expected there to be like a ruling on if we're gonna, are you gonna allow us to continue the survey?
Now, we also learned in today's hearing that the defense had plans to run this survey in 2 additional counties located in southeastern Idaho. Now, defense attorney Ann Taylor said those specific counties were selected due to their size, the size of the courthouse, the security available, and the fact that it's a large population, which also means a large jury pool. Reporting in Moscow, Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
Amanda, thank you. And new at 5 tonight, we now know the identities of the 2 Spokane police officers who were involved in a police shooting that left 1 man dead Sunday night. It happened in the West Central neighborhood after a house fire that is now...
Okay. Now, I'm going to go back to show you guys. Now, watch this. Boom, boom. So, okay. What you would normally do is how it says the state absolutely rips apart defense consultant. No, this would be a PhD expert in a field. Okay. But they're diminishing already. Law and crime trials is already diminishing this man's role, like this man's career. I mean, okay. But they don't show his whole entire, like this clip.
Experienced experts such as yourself.
They started on the cross-examination. So you want to talk about biased. So they start, this clip is just on the cross-examination done by Bill. Okay. Versus, why aren't you just playing his whole testimony? Leave out the rubbish beforehand, leave out the rubbish behind, right? And then you would just play the direct examination, the cross-examination, and then the redirect. And I would even leave in the part where he's talking with Judge, okay? But all they did is play the clip from the cross-examination and then title it the way they did. That is biased. That's biased. That's not this man's testimony. That's that man's cross-examination. His testimony comes before that on direct examination. And then there was a redirect. And then the judge also asked questions. So why law and crime trials page here wants to be biased, you'd have to go and ask them. But they're biased because that's what they chose to put out there. That'd be like me going live and saying, I'm only going to cover the part where Ann Taylor's talking, and then I'm not going to cover anything else. It is edited, but it's the point of no shit that it's edited. That's the only section they're taking. But it's edited that reason and being able to be slapped with this title that is misleading and is flat out just not correct. Okay, the defense didn't rip into anybody. The prosecution, the state didn't rip into anybody. That's their opinion. Okay, that's an opinion. And quite frankly, it's misleading. You're making people think, Lana. Yes, I try to do that all the time. I don't want to tell people how to think. Go ahead. Hey. Oh. So just seeing that after like everything that you would have listened to, this is why you guys lost privilege. You lost the privilege to video record and be the camera inside there for all of us to stream from. You guys lost us this privilege. Why? Because of your bias. And that you just can't follow fucking instructions like a simple first grader can. Now, I'm going to put up my own clip to show what was actually put out, which was this. I'm going to go to my page, your channel, and I want to show you guys this, which is
Thanks, Judge.
okay. Bill Thompson has a huge problem here.
Testimony, but the PowerPoint is different, Judge. That's
What is-
I don't know why
it's
we're
a-
seeing the PowerPoint.
it's a stock
when we have
image.
his testimony.
Okay. We have no idea what's coming, but Bill Thompson does. At this point in the presentation / hearing yesterday, I make a funny joke and I say, it's a stock image like your fucking car, like the stock image that you provided all of us to go running around to try to find that stupid white car, right? It's a stock image. Why is Bill Thompson, like, what about this slide is so crazy, right? It would be him arguing right here. Then what happens literally right after he makes his argument?
All right.
It
Does
goes.
that non-dissemination order change how you did your work?
I'm sorry, can you can
Does the existence of the non-dissemination order change how you did your work?
No, it did not.
Have you worked in cases where there's a non-dissemination order at other times?
Many times.
Was the sole source of the information that you use contained in the media?
Was it came from the media? Sorry. Yes. Everything I used was widely disseminated through the media. Widely disseminated.
Did you find out where the media got the information?
Yes.
Good afternoon, folks.
That was literally my reaction in real time when she clicks to the next slide. Bill Thompson had seen the slides, knew this was coming, and just so you guys did not see it, right? Why has nobody made a clip? Okay, because this is GOAT material. Clip me. I need a clip channel right here. This is GOAT. That fucking man literally was. We thought, why is he so pissed about a stock image? You gave us a stock image to go fucking hunt for some fucking car. And you gave us 2 different years, one with a sunroof, one without one. Why? That told me everything I need to know. You don't know if it has a sunroof or not. You can't see that much of the car up top, okay? And then look at the wheels. You obviously don't know, you can't tell the wheels, so we're going to I am now an expert with Elantras. Don't test me. This was GOAT right here. The next slide, boop. Because she asked the question, where did you find out where where the media got their information from? And he said, yeah. Click. This is my reaction. I think it's that good. I'm going to play it again for you guys. Right. Look at, just ready to just watch my reaction.
The information.
Yes.
Good afternoon, folks. My name's Bill Thompson. I'm the Latah County Prosecutor. And it's sad to be here, but happy to be here at the same time.
You turn it up. I can't hear.
Kohberger.
Well, I'm going to do my best to turn this up.
And you dog. And oh shit,
If I
girl.
put the microphone up, is that better?
So, Christy, you don't have to.
That's why
Let me preface. There's a pending case now in court, and I and my office and the investigators have to live with the restrictions that our Supreme Court places on pretrial publicity. That said, I promise you we will share with you through the court process or otherwise, whatever we are allowed to. I just appreciate your patience on that. The factual basis for the charges are summarized in what's called a probable cause affidavit that is on file with the court.
He just said the factual basis, okay? And then you hear at the end of it when Ann's partner there, federal guru, what's her name? Masmuth. She says the PCA is far from factual. There are so many mistruths in that PCA. He says what he says here.
According to the rules of the Idaho Supreme Court, that is sealed until Mr. Kohberger is physically back in Latah County and has been served with the Idaho arrest warrant. At that time, we expect that that affidavit will be available to you so you can share the true facts with all of your readers and your watchers and your listeners and all the people who are interested and really need to know what's going on. So please have patience with us on that. We will get that to you as soon as we can.
In that clip, you heard reference to the probable cause affidavit.
Yes.
And did you hear reference to sharing it with all your readers and watchers?
Readers, watchers, and listeners, and anyone else who's interested.
Did your research tell you that the media took Mr. Thompson up on that offer to share this far and wide?
Yes.
Good afternoon, folks.
What did you say?
Basically, the media took that document and then published the highlights and key findings in that document and added editorial commentary to that information. So let's be clear, they didn't just read the affidavit. There's editorial, there's debate, there's discussion, there's spin, all of it in news stories. And these stories, for example, this one has over 200, I'm sorry, I can't see it. Do you have a copy of the...
You guys, I am sitting here because I'm like, why is he so bent about some damn, look at, they're all stock images, stock. Like this is just, that's all it is, stock images. Well, he knows where this is going.
But I wouldn't, for example, look at a newspaper published in Dallas because I don't know if somebody in Latah County would be looking at a paper in Dallas. So I look at the local coverage. I try to look at like local television coverage to see what the community is likely exposed to.
While we're here, I want to ask you some questions about the non-dissemination order.
Okay.
That's been a hot topic, and you've heard some of it again today. Are you aware that there's a non-dissemination order in this case?
Yes.
How did you become aware of it?
Well, the first time I became aware of it was when I was reading the newspaper coverage, because that was one of the topics of media coverage, was discussing the non-dissemination order and media's efforts to have it changed. So I was able to read it and follow it in that media coverage. So that's the first time I saw it.
And in January, did you receive an email from my office with the non-dissemination order?
I believe I did.
And you looked at a hard copy again recently?
Yes.
All right. Does that non-dissemination order change how you did your work?
I'm sorry, can you
Does the existence of the non-dissemination order change how you did your work?
No, it did not.
Have you worked in cases where there's a non-dissemination order at other times?
Many times.
Was the sole source of the information that you use contained in the media?
Was it came from the media? Sorry. Yes. Everything I used was widely disseminated through the media. Widely disseminated.
Did you find out where the media got the information?
Yes.
Good afternoon, folks. My name is Bill Thompson. I'm the Latah County prosecutor. And it's sad to be here, but happy to be here at the same time.
You turn it up. I can't hear.
Now, here we go. I did a show and I told all of you guys, pay attention, pay attention. And I did, and it was Bill Thompson. Okay. Interviews, November 2022. Here we go. Okay. Just so you guys know where you guys can find this. When will we know more details on Idaho murder suspect?
Good afternoon, folks. My name is Bill Thompson. I'm the Latah County prosecutor. And it's sad to be here, but happy to be here at the same time. As Chief Fry indicated, a criminal complaint was filed yesterday here in Latah County, charging the defendant, Mr. Kohberger, with 4 counts of first-degree murder, in addition to felony burglary, which involves entering the residence with the intent to commit the crime of murder. Mr. Kohberger, and let me preface, there's a pending case now in court, and I and my office and the investigators have to live with the restrictions that our Supreme Court places on pretrial publicity. That said, I promise you we will share with you through the court process or...
Okay, now. He knew that this day would eventually come, whoever it would be, okay? So then I ask you this, a non-biased person.
And we're happy to be joined this morning by Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson. Mr. Thompson, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Police there have called this a targeted, isolated attack. Are investigators looking for a particular suspect or suspects this morning?
At this point, the investigators are looking at all possibilities. They don't have a specific suspect. They're continuing to work on that.
Do you believe that whomever did this is still at large?
Yes, we have no one in custody, and the police have been unable to identify who's responsible for these homicides.
Is it possible there's more than one suspect?
It certainly is possible. That's the purpose of the investigation. That's why we're really hoping for any information from the public that can help the investigators recreate everyone's activities Saturday night and early Sunday morning, and hopefully give them the leads, the information to identify who did this.
There's so many things about this case that are so hard to put together. Veteran police officers who arrived at the scene said it was one of the most horrific and gruesome scenes that they had ever seen. Yet somehow there were 2 roommates who were in the house who apparently didn't hear anything. What are the red flags you have there, and are those roommates considered persons of interest?
Well, anybody who might have knowledge is considered persons of interest at this point. As far as suspects, I don't believe so. The investigators continue to work hard trying to interview everyone who might have any information and hopefully figure out and identify what occurred. And
How on November 17th would Bill Thompson know or not know that the roommates have nothing to do with this? November 17th. They just did their first police press conference on November 16th. Okay. The prosecutor is talking with the Today Show on November 17th.
why and who's responsible.
As we understand the timeline, and we recognize that this is an investigation very much ongoing, the 4 came home, early in the morning, Sunday morning, let's say 1:45, 2 o'clock in the morning, something like that. The 911 call didn't come until midday the next day. Does that raise any red flags for you? How do you explain that?
Bill Thompson immediately was going and having sit down with mainstream media in an investigation. And it just, this is a horrible, heinous crime. And here, he's not doing it in like police press conference type settings. He's having a sit down with the Today Show. Ask yourself why. Why? Why? I gotta build those what? Why? You are going to be spreading far and wide a lot about this case. I think it looks like he doesn't want the person, whoever is arrested, to get a fair trial. Why would you do this? Why would you go and have a sit down with the Today Show?
I think the investigators are trying to ascertain why there was a delay and what actually occurred, what was heard. That's a question that's still out there, and I know they're working on that. We're trying to assist them as much as possible with obtaining search warrants for data and cell records and social media and anything that might help.
Do you know who called 911? Can you reveal who reported this?
I can't reveal who.
You guys understand that on November 17th, no search warrant had come back yet. No data. So that means you don't have any information other than any interview and what that person would or wouldn't have said. Because I know the dates of the search warrants when they were sent out. The first search warrant was sent out November 16th to get cell phone towers, the data from the cell records, from the towers rather. The tower in that area to see who was possibly on a cell tower in that area. Okay, these devices. But you don't have anything. Even if you're getting some stuff back by November 17th, depending on when this was, then you have to actually like look through it. Would you going to sit here and tell me that you guys began to look through this shit then? Fuck no, you didn't do it in the other cases that I've gone back and checked. They haven't even examined until November 18th the video of the suspect video. How do we know that now? Because of the public record, because of the documents, okay? That they do not have until November 18th the video that they then use to claim that there's this white car and everything that in this pieces that they don't even have that yet. This is November 17th. Just so you guys understand this timeline. And he is sitting down with the Today Show. Why? Ask yourselves why. Who in their right fucking mind would do this? This is when then this is when the police and Bill Thompson had a big issue. And then they had to come out. And on November 17th, they have 3 different things that they put out in the written up pressers.
Who made the 911 call? The police do know who made the 911 call, though.
Obviously, we don't know anything about motive, but the mayor did initially refer to this crime as a crime of passion. Why did he say that?
I can't speak for Mayor Betke. He, to my knowledge, there is nothing to indicate that this has been determined to be a crime of passion. We know it's just a horrible crime, and 4 young lives have been lost.
And finally, initially, investigators and the police had said the community has nothing to worry about. Now they've sort of said, well, of course we should be vigilant because there is a suspect or suspects still at large. What is your message to that community this morning?
Well, I think the fact of the matter is that whoever is responsible for these murders is still at large. The investigators do not know who that person is. From what they've told my office, they believe that this was what they call a targeted attack and not just a random act of violence. And I think they tried to communicate that, but obviously that communication didn't work very well. It's unfortunate for any confusion in the community. People just need to be vigilant and help us however they can. We hope that we can identify who's responsible and get them off the streets as soon as we can.
We're sure your officers and prosecutors are working hard there. Thank you so much, Latah County Prosecuting Attorney Bill Thompson. Thank you for your time this morning, sir.
It doesn't matter what is shown. Why would he even do this? Go check out these cases and see what attorney is, or see, look at the Delphi case. You know who this reminds me of? This reminds me of Doug Carter popping on to go on his little tours when he's done his. Why on November 17th is this even happening? And it's to control the media from jump. And if you don't agree with me, that's perfectly fine. But why would he be sitting down with the Today Show like this? November 17th, they just put in for search warrants. They have nothing. And they have only interviewed whoever it is that they've interviewed. You're just in the process of gathering this data, gathering stuff. You're not even in the process of investigating yet. You just went to the house. He had to go a couple different times to process the scene. Why would you be sitting down with the Today Show on the stage? And then that wasn't the last time.
These murders have become national and international news, but for the small town of Moscow, it's the kind of thing that changes generations.
Investigators are now searching for a killer in the glare of the national spotlight. As investigators continue to search for answers, the clock is ticking on justice. And while questions and rumors about the case are circulating on the internet, a lot of what is being said online is not vetted.
Here at 4 News Now, we're committed to bringing you the facts of this investigation. 4 News Now's Melissa Luck explains how investigators are working through it all as a community grieves in fear.
Nothing is normal right now in the small town of Moscow, Idaho.
You can feel it, and it's understandable. It's understandable. It's a scary time. It's a horrible thing that happened this past weekend.
Last week marked Bill Thompson's 30th anniversary as prosecutor here. He's led the fight for justice in other high-profile cases. But he admits nothing like this. The gruesome murders of 4 college students, and now 5 days without a suspect.
Moscow Police Department with the state police and the FBI have brought in probably more resources than I've ever seen in an investigation in 30 years here in Latah County to try to answer those questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm just hoping they find the answer soon.
That hope felt across this community and across the Pacific Northwest. And because of a lack of information released early on, investigators are also dealing with a barrage of misinformation spreading online. The bottom line for the man whose job it will be to prosecute the killer?
We don't know who's responsible for this. We don't know why it happened. And whoever is responsible is out there somewhere.
Filling the void of information has led to accusations against innocent people online and further victimization of 4 grieving families and countless friends. So why not just fill in the gaps? Thompson says investigators have a very specific reason for not doing so.
It's likely that the details of what they've learned is not something they are prepared to share publicly at this point, because they don't want that information to get out there in the public where only the suspects or somebody who was involved would otherwise know about it.
Tonight, we know for sure the victims were killed with a large knife, that investigators have even left the state to interview people who may have been in contact with the victims, and that investigators don't know who did this or why. He stressed the importance of what happened in the hours between the likely time of the murders and the time someone called 911.
Everything that occurred leading up to the time of death, and then from the time of death till the officers were notified or the report was made, is crucial information.
So many questions and so few answers. Thompson says it will get harder in the days to come, and that this community will never be the same.
We will never forget what happened, but Moscow is a good, resilient town. So yes, I have every faith that our community will return to something more normal. But this is always going to be part of our history.
I'm Melissa Luck, 4 News Now.
So in the Karen Reed case, what they did is the prosecutors did this actually. The prosecutors, so check this out.
Between the likely time of the murder.
Do you see how it's like copied and like edited? You know, you can see like the cut coming in here. So clearly Bill Thompson has said a bunch more, okay? Now in the Karen Reed case, it was actually the prosecutor that wanted to try to obtain Karen Reed's, she did an interview and it was a 7 or 8 minute interview that, you know, it was put out, and they motioned to get the media's basically B-roll film. We want all of it. We want all of the stuff that Karen Reed said and that you recorded that didn't go out to the public, but was said to you guys. We motioned to the courts that I forget whoever did it. I don't know if it was Dateline, whoever did the damn clip. But you clearly have a bunch more, okay? Because here you can see that you're just, you know, Bill's talking and you're cutting things, okay? The prosecutor wanted it in the Karen Reed case, okay? Now, here is a very interesting question that I pose. Do you think that Ann Taylor should be motioning to say that we want a motion to get all of every interview that Bill Thompson ever did? We want the film from the media because it's what they chose to cut and copy and put out there. Did Thompson approve it? Okay. Obviously, if it was like a live interview, it's live. This is not. This was cut. Okay. Can Ann Taylor and will Ann Taylor, I know that she can do it. Is it relevant material? Okay. Especially with the non-dissemination order. This was before the non-dissemination order. Okay. So if there was stuff, and if you can look in these B-roll films, but I call it B-roll, stuff that you just don't, you publish, but you have it. And maybe it didn't make it because somebody was like, you have to cut that and you can't use that clip. I have to have, final say over what you're what you're producing, what you're putting out there. But I think that Ann Taylor should take a chance at trying to obtain all of this footage. I think that it's relevant. I think that I think that you have nothing to lose, right? Why wouldn't you? And we saw it in the Karen Reed case, and it was actually the prosecutor that wanted it to see if, hey, maybe Karen Reed said something that she shouldn't have said. Well, let's see what the prosecutor was pumping out there, that maybe the media was like, well, damn, I don't know if we should put that out. And so they didn't, but shit, instead of putting it out maybe like this, they went ahead a different way and put that shit out. So I just think it's interesting. And I think that I don't know if, I know that they can do it. I just don't know, is Judge going to, what they can say, where you would put this in at, stuff like that. But also sources can, hey, that's, we're not asking for your source. We already have your source. Bill Thompson is your source. We're asking for all of it. We're asking for the material that you chose not to put out for whatever reason, but we want to know what Bill Thompson was saying. Okay. And I think that would go for anybody that gave an interview, in my opinion. Lana, you called so much of this early on. It's amazing. So much hard work. Well done. I'm blown away. Oh, thanks, Jen. Thanks, Jen. Appreciate that. Now, can we request from the news media? See, usually the news media is all about like they're keeping their sources. They don't have to tell you who the source is. Okay. But this is something different. And with all the different versions out there, if the Gonsalveses were told that the girls were shot, then they overdosed with fentanyl, then it was, a stabbing. Why didn't you keep the information about it being a stabbing close to the chest? Because only the killer would know how they killed somebody. Okay. But they wanted to come right out and say that they were killed in this manner. All right. So I'm curious also about that. I'm also curious of what information did Bryan Kohberger or the killer, okay? Because you keep things close to the chest because only the killer would know something. Well, did you ever try to interview the killer and see if he said something that only the killer would know? But I don't understand why Bill Thompson's doing interviews. You have nothing. I don't get it.
What they've learned is not something they are prepared to share publicly at this point because they don't want that information to get out there in the public where only the suspects or somebody who is involved would otherwise know about it.
Tonight, we know for sure the victims were killed with a large knife, that investigators have even left the state to interview people who may have been in contact with the victims, and that investigators don't know who did this or why.
Investigators left the state to interview people? Who left the state? And who did the police need to track down to interview? Think about that. I'm going to replay that part. I want to know where that came from.
Victims, and that investigators don't know who did this or why. Investigators have even left the state to interview people who may have been in contact with the victims, and that investigators don't know who
may have been in contact with the victims. Where did they get that information from? They went to Pullman, Washington, and if that's their way of saying Pullman, Washington.
who did this or why. He stressed the importance of what happened.
Would like to know who they were interviewing in Pullman, Washington so early on in the case. What, Xana's sister? It says, let me listen to that one more time.
Only the suspects or somebody who was involved would otherwise know about it.
Tonight, we know for sure the victims were killed with a large knife, that investigators have even left the state to interview people who may have been in contact with the victims, and that investigators don't know who did this or why. He stressed the importance of what happened in the hours between the likely time of the murders and the time someone called 911.
Everything that occurred leading up to the time of death, and then from the time of death till the officers were notified or the report was made, is crucial information.
So many questions.
Okay, so it's so crucial. It's so crucial, right? Like any investigation would be so crucial. To now, they're trying to make it seem like that none of that matters, that time period. So right here, he contradicts himself, basically, and I would be using this against him down the road. But you're saying how important the time is, like right up before the murders, and then all the way that whole time up and until, the notification went out. He's saying how important it is. In the PCA, there is no talk about any time frame that would have been from the time of the crime to 911. Go check out that PCA. There is nothing except for one mention, which is, and I'm going to get to it here, Bryan Kohberger returned to the scene. Bryan Kohberger returned to the scene. And guess who says that that's false? None other than the defense yesterday. So Bill Thompson says how crucial that time period is. Just like it would be for any investigation, right? And we got to get, to fill in these gaps. What the hell was going on during that time period? Go look at the PCA. The only thing is, and I'll show you here. I'm going to share this.
On the issue of whether the survey can be changed, I think that does present some challenges based on what we've heard here today. But the solution for that is very easy. We just back up, and if the defense wants to pursue the survey, they do a new survey with a new group of people and take out the objectionable questions. And then once they
have not violated.
That's the way forward, Judge.
Watch this.
Thanks.
This is the closing. This is,
Judge, I'm just going to end really quickly with this. We didn't violate the non-dissemination order. You know, the information that now he's calling facts, you know, he's flip-flopping between whether or not it's a false fact or a fact that's in the survey. The information that was put in the survey is based on the public record and information, the way that the state and state actors put information into the public record that has now been disseminated. And we have not violated that order. And I do resent being accused of that.
I appreciate that. I mean, those two questions were not in the public record. Okay. They weren't. I mean, they came out, but that was not the court. I mean, where it came from. It just came out of the media or somewhere. Who knows where it came from? But I don't think there's anything, not that I'm aware of, in the public record that said anything about that, about your client. So, I mean, here we are. I mean, that happened. It's kind of unfortunate. I totally understand the reason to have false information out there.
Did the pool to 1,000? Am I right about that number? Code 2-202. This moment, I see that you have two choices. Defense getting up and doing press conferences based on the information, because we have information that no one else has, and we are consulting with experts that the public doesn't know about. And so we have a level of credibility that the others don't have. And so that is my understanding of what we're trying to get a hold of. And it's been pretty effective in this case until this valid survey that happens in high profile cases has been construed to be something nefarious, which it absolutely is not. As you've heard, it's been used in Boston bombing, the Parkland shooting, the Colorado theater, George Floyd, hundreds of cases going back decades. Dr. Edelman's declaration and now his testimony are 79% of the people knew 5 or more prejudicial and false media reports. 81% of those who had heard about the stalking had determined and took a position that Mr. Kohberger is guilty. These people that were surveyed didn't form the opinion when they were being surveyed. And they didn't then go research their already strongly held opinion because of the survey. These are deeply held opinions in this community within this jury pool. The Latah County citizens have accepted the information placed before them by state actors. It's not just Mr. Thompson that did a media report and talked about the probable cause affidavit. Chief Fry, the coroner Kathy Mabbitt. We've got search warrants from Pennsylvania out there in the public record. We've got hundreds of search warrants in the public record out there from Idaho. We've got all kinds of pleadings. This is all information that's put out into the media. And having the state now claim this moral high ground is an oxymoron. It's a complete oxymoron for state actors to put this information out in the public and now say, hey, wait, if you want to ask if people have believed the information that we put out there, you can't do that. That harms Mr. Kohberger. We as a defense team have the obligation and frankly the privilege of defending Mr. Kohberger and defending his right to a fair trial. And in doing so, in arguing that venue should be changed, we have to show you that there is
They talk about the specific morning, going back to the morning of.
Professionalism, your work, your reputation.
Where the crime occurred, all these things that make this county unique. That
Okay.
You want to test for another.
Right here. Okay, so they use the PowerPoint here. Xana and Ethan found on second floor. Maddie and Kaylee in bed together on the third floor. Knife sheath on bed next to Maddie. Idaho State Lab found single source of male DNA on button of sheath. Compared that DNA to trash they took from Kohberger family home in Pennsylvania on December 27th. Matched the DNA of the suspect's father almost 100. Phone didn't ping towers near King Road house. Investigators believe he turned it off, but then pinged on way back to Moscow after murders. Phone records match Hyundai Elantra movements. Officers say he later learned through cell phone records from June to December. Kohberger had been by the King Road house at least 12 times prior to the murders, most in evening or early morning. Surveillance video showed white Hyundai Elantra seen near crime scene multiple times around time of murder. Investigators believe car was heading toward Pullman after murders. November 29th, Washington State University police learned Kohberger owned a white Hyundai Elantra. Physical description from Kohberger's driver's license matched the one roommate gave. Okay. Right, they do it before.
Take my advice if I told you what questions to ask?
I would not. And I'll tell you why. Is, as I mentioned, my role is to be an objective expert, to provide the court with information so the court can make a decision on if any remedial measures are necessary. I don't care what questions you want in the survey, and I don't care what questions the government wants. What I want to do is conduct a valid survey that's objective, reliable, and provides meaningful information that can be used by the court.
Do you believe comparative surveys in other counties would?
The source of the most prejudicial media items came from arrest affidavit, which the government chose to file unsealed with the court. Now, at the beginning of when, right here.
Your testimony. So, are you okay? Okay, great. Okay, let's go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. I realize it's late in the day, and I will tell you that this takes about 9 minutes for me to sum this up. But I do want to talk about something in advance because you're asking questions of our expert about his process and changing the process that is impacted in the United States Supreme Court law. And the United States Supreme Court law requires that in its representations, in its reporting that is so prejudicial. Because the basis for this spin, the foundation is right there in what you are describing as the public record. Now, I fundamentally disagree that the only public record in this case is what's there on the 12-page docket. The public record in this case that the entire nation and the world is looking at, and especially Latah County, is derived and construed out of that public record.
So can I ask you a question about that? This public record thing is really kind of circling around because what's the purpose then of the non-dissemination order? If everything out there in the public is
they have created a narrative based on the facts that are represented in the affidavit. Now, I would agree that there's a lot of information in that affidavit that is just flat and not true. But if we focus on where we are right now.
Boom. This is how I'm going to close it. Right there. That's where she says it. There is flat out not, like, there's the stuff is in this affidavit that is not true. Okay. Flat out not true. But that's not what they're there for today. And that's what she says. But we're not going to talk about that today because that's not what we're here for.
We can and we need to finish the process that the defense undertook. It was completely valid. It was, and especially Latah County is derived and construed out of that public record.
So can I ask you a question about that? This public record thing is really kind of circling around, because what's the purpose then of the non-dissemination order? If everything out there in the public is
give me the discovery
public record.
Come on,
well,
baby.
my understanding, Your Honor, is that it's one of the primary issues was the credibility of the person that is out there speaking. We did not want law enforcement, 159 officers.
Okay. So where I'm going to leave off is right here, because I'm going to be doing tonight. I'm comparing. I'm going to talk about it. The white elephant in the room, which is Steve Gonsalves versus Scotty Green. And all the different things that they've said. Dude wrote a fucking book. So Steve, not happy about it. Rightfully so. I'd be pissed too. But quite frankly, I don't think that if I'm Steve, I'm saying where I got my information from. Because if somebody lied to me, if I'm Steve, I have a huge problem with that. So that's for later on. Where this will be picking up tomorrow is we're going back to the affidavit and all the things that we said on this channel that do not make sense. And I have a hard time believing. She said it right here today or yesterday, but I'm emphasizing it right here. There are stuff that's in that probable cause that are just flat out not true. Flat out not true. That's what happened in the Dr. Moore, Dr. Drake case as well. The stuff that was put in to that probable cause affidavit, which is really similar in the number of pages and very similar in this whole looping around a location a couple of different times in a vehicle and then pouncing. But I want to talk about what I believe they are referring to as what's not true. Because if there is stuff that the arrest of Bryan Kohberger came from things, remember, we're not even to that part yet. We're not even to that part of where Ann's going to start making filings on the suppression of evidence and how that's all coming. That's why it's like, we're never going to get to a trial at this rate when Bill Thompson has a problem of doing a valid legal piece, which is the survey. I believe that Bill Thompson tried to sabotage this whole thing, and I hope that it royally backfires. But the purpose for having that hearing is to determine if Bryan Kohberger can get a fair trial or not. Period. No, the county itself should be saying, I don't think that we can get a fair trial here. They want to keep it so bad. We should, when somebody wants something so bad in life, don't you ever think to yourselves, why? Shouldn't you only want to try this case one time? So if I'm the parents, yeah, move it. It doesn't matter. He's guilty and we have all this shit to prove it. It doesn't matter where we have this because the evidence is going to speak for itself. So why is Latah County, the judge and the prosecutor, emotionally, they're not even arguing facts. They're not even arguing law. They're arguing pure emotion. Why? Do you think that a juror from Latah County, if they were to find Bryan Kohberger in a deliberation room, I'm not voting guilty. I don't think that he's guilty after I've seen all this stuff. They're gonna know every single person that's on that jury. You think that someone's life that they wouldn't think that would be in danger because I'm the person that held out and I'm the reason that they're not going to be like blacklisted in the community. And if that person owns a business, nobody's going to go shopping at their fucking store anymore. Think about that. Nobody wants any of that. I'm not going to, if I don't find him guilty, then my family, all of us, like we're going to be ostracized in the community. Because that's the type of fucking community that this is. And if you don't think it, you're crazy. So therefore, I'm not going to be the juror that holds out. I'm not going to be that because guess what? Me and my family, we are fucked moving forward. That's what that town's all about. So nobody wants to be on that jury in that town. Nobody wants that. But I'm telling you this right here and right now, that type of community, God, it's going to come out that I was the juror that held out. It may not come out in writing with my name, but everybody in that room is going to know it. And guess what? After the case is over, those other jurors can come out and tell their story and they can say, juror da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. And then that person that owns that business in that community, you think people are going to go shopping there? No. If that was a teacher, whatever, your life is fucked. If you are going to be the person that holds out, or if a couple people are going to be the reason, okay, that is going to get out and your life will be in danger. And that is my final argument as to why I believe that this should not be. I think that it presents a danger to anybody in that community. Whereas if nobody could get to somebody, they don't have those type of pull. If the jury is picked somewhere else and this is somewhere else, there's no other outside influences. I'm not going to listen. Hey, doing right here. Do you own anything in life? Do you feel like if you were to find Bryan Kohberger innocent, or if you held out and would you be affected economically, physically? And the answer, I think a lot of people would feel like, yeah, like, and do you think that would come out? Yes, I do. So this town does not need to be the jury. Can the town host the event, the trial? Sure. But I don't think that's practical. Because this is going to be a long trial. I think that they need to be sequestered. But we're going to pick up tomorrow when we talk about this affidavit again, because the probable cause for the arrest of Bryan Kohberger. God, they're not going to be getting. Bill Thompson's going to argue every little thing like this. This is wild. But go read the articles. I mean, just go read the titles that are out there. And nobody's out there saying, holy shit, Bryan Kohberger's defense team believes that he's innocent. And we should take a look at this then. So anybody out there has a platform like mine, please start covering the case the way that you should be covering the case. Not with a reckless disregard for the truth and for the facts. Okay? I'm the first person that told you, as soon as I see evidence, I will be pointing it out and I will be screaming from the rooftops, holy shit, look at what Bryan Kohberger did. But that's not what I see right now. And when you're going to have lawyers like this fighting for not only for his rights, but for his innocence, if you believe in the United States Constitution, how you can look the other way, shame on you. Shame on you. But that's why all of you guys are here, because you're not like that. And you come here to be around other like-minded. I don't even want to say like you're open-minded. You're just reality, man. But they live in skewed realities out there. It does not take away from the victims. Finding somebody guilty that did not do this does not get justice for the victims. So, again, thank you guys so much for the super chats. Thank you guys for the modding. Thank you for the memberships. Share this video. keep sending me emails, keep commenting on videos. But you guys are great. Love all one of y'all. All of y'all. Yeah. And the truth of the matter is that maybe he did it, maybe he didn't do it, but you deserve a fair trial. And Latah County it's not where he can get that. So I wouldn't want it. If I was a parent, I wouldn't want to do this all again. No, we're going to do this once. Move the fucking thing. I would be calling up the prosecutor. I would say, listen, I know you don't call me for shit. I know you don't. Move the trial. We're not doing this again. Do it right. And the state, y'all are just paying this both ways. You guys are paying both of the sides. Everything. The state is paying for this. The county's paying for this. Y'all are just blowing your money. Until next time, peace out, Girl Scouts. Woo-hoo.